Hokage Unlimited enhancement every 60 days, Chapter 41-60. 041 Seal. With the power of the devil wind, even the Jonin can't resist, the only way is to hide underground. But wherever the devil wind passes, its mighty power will blow the ground off more than 10 meters. This is a desert, how can a solid cave more than 10 meters deep be made? It is precisely because of knowing this clearly that Sandren is so heartbroken. What is that? My God! The speed of the devil wind is extremely fast, and it is approaching in a blink of an eye, and even the lower end of the test has noticed it. Looking at such a huge and terrifying momentum, each one's face was pale, and in addition to horror, his heart was full of despair. Mom, I'm sorry, I may not be able to go back alive. A certain team slumped on the ground feebly. In addition to fear, they couldn't help but think of their parents, teachers, and friends. My heart is full of regret, regretting why I didn't spend more time with them before. Whoosh! At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared and stood in front of them. Quote. The three stopped crying, raised their heads, and saw a figure who was not very tall, but very firm, and instantly showed surprise. Master Feng. Don't worry, you can definitely see Mom again. Looking in the direction of the devil's wind, Gaara's expression was firm. Can only save them. At the same time, Gaara frowned secretly. The speed of the devil wind was too fast, and he didn't have time to gather the candidates together for protection. In this way, he can only rescue the three people in front of him first. At this time, the devil wind was very close, and Gaara couldn't think about it, and was ready to deal with it with all his strength. Such a strong devil wind, even he is very difficult. Master Feng. At the same time, in Cheyenne village, the guard discovered that the so-called Feng was actually a sand clone. The real Gaara has long since disappeared. Oops. At the same time, Zitai and Izumo, who were in charge of secret protection, also frowned. Gaara has been freed from their protection, and if there is any danger next, it will be troublesome. Thinking of this, the two hurriedly left, and they were going to inform Long Yi. At this time, on the city wall, there were only two clones holding their cards in a daze, and the dragon had long since disappeared. It's over. I didn't expect that I would die in this way, I'm really unwilling. The devil's wind was very close, and the blackness was pressing down. Due to the rolling of countless iron blocks, there were countless muffled thunder-like noises. Seeing this seem like the end of the world, all the candidates in the demon desert were filled with despair. Natural disasters of this level are simply not something they can contend with. When they signed up for the Chunin exam, they were already mentally prepared to die, but it was unacceptable to die in this way. But what can they do? Whoosh! The devil wind is already in sight, just when everyone is ready to die. The sound of breaking the air suddenly sounded, and a figure suddenly appeared in the air, in front of the devil wind. That's the girdle that was flying in the wind, and the huge scroll that was already carried behind him. Someone suddenly recognized it. It's that Konoha ninja. That Konoha's Chunin leader. Dragon 2. For a while, in addition to being surprised, everyone wondered again, isn't he in the village? At this time, if you don't take refuge in the village, how can you appear here? Noba Whirlwind. At this moment, the dragon also shouted loudly. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Dozens of kunai were instantly kicked and flew in all directions. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. And the next moment, I saw the figure of the dragon also flashing in the air. At this time, Long Yi took out a huge brush from the center of the scroll, using chakra as the ink. In mid-air, where the figure passed, traces were drawn. This is. Every time the dragon flashed, it was 300 or 400 meters, and then, a trace had been drawn between his two figures. Long Yi's stand-in technique, although teleportation, is not space ninjutsu, he has passed the actual distance. As a result, the dragon is also extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, a huge pattern covering a radius of hundreds of miles has appeared in the air. Seal. 4 elephant seals. I have never eaten pork before and I have seen a pig run. At this time, someone has recognized it. This is the seal of the 4 elephants that is famous all over the world. What is he going to do? At the same time, everyone was full of doubts, and they drew a 4-symptom sealing technique in the air. What is this Konoha ninja going to do? Shish. And at this time, the dragon was also quickly forming the seal. Si, Hai, Wei, Mao, Shu, Zi, Yu. Could he? Everyone was stunned, and then they were shocked again. Could it be that he wants to use the seal of the 4 elephants? In the eyes of other village ninjas, a Konoha Chunin who is not worthy of the name is not even as good as them. How could it be this kind of S-rank forbidden technique that even Joinin couldn't master? Moreover, in this case, in the face of such a natural disaster that destroys everything, what is the use of sealing? Does he want to seal the devil wind? It's ridiculous. It was like a joke, but he suddenly came back to his senses. What Long Yi did at this time, wasn't it about to seal the devil wind, but how is this possible? You must know that even with the scroll, or the spell that has been written down, the range of the sealing technique is at most 100 meters. And this devil wind has a range of 200 or 300 miles, how can this be accommodated by a seal? Seal the devil wind. Compared with other ordinary Jinin, Gaara, who is Kazekage, has a deeper understanding of ninjutsu. But it was because of this that he knew how difficult it was. Even he can only use sand to make walls to resist the devil wind and protect a few people. He didn't even dare to think about directly sealing the entire devil wind. It was obviously impossible, but Ai Luo suddenly had an absurd idea. If it was Long Yi, he might be able to create a miracle. What is that? 4 elephant seals. At the same time, the Cheyenne village, which was still behind the demon desert, was already ready to open the barrier to resist the devil's wind. When he suddenly saw the huge spells appearing in the sky, all of them were full of surprise. With a technique of this scale, at this time, does anyone want to seal the devil wind? But how is this possible? Who is he? At the same time, they couldn't help but wonder who the figure in front of the technique was. Noon, see. At this time, the devil wind was already in sight, and the dragon had also completed the seal. Snapped. With a light sound, the dragon also folded his hands together, and shouted loudly in the face of the demon wind that was so close at hand. Seal. 042 Seal Ninja Ryuya Takagi. When the devil wind was close at hand, everyone subconsciously closed their eyes and waited for death to come. Seal. And at this moment, a loud shout resounded throughout the sky. Then, everything was quiet. Am I dead? Everyone in the Devil's Desert thought that the Devil's Wind had passed by, and they had turned into ashes and ascended to another world. But it feels like the body is still there. This is. It wasn't until a moment later that everyone tentatively opened their eyes. Looking at it again at this time, where is there any devil wind? There is a blue sky in front of me, and there is not even a trace of wind. What happened? For a time, everyone was in a trance again. Could it be that they were all hallucinations, and there was no devilish wind at all? No. But then shook his head, how could the experience of life and death just now be an illusion? That's. At this time, everyone suddenly saw a figure slowly falling from the air. Konoha ninja. That Chunin. All of a sudden, everyone remembered that it was the Konoha Chunin, who was despised by them, who suddenly stood in front of all of them and sealed all the devil winds with the shocking 4-image seal. The devil wind that engulfed hundreds of miles was completely sealed. What kind of strength is this? Thinking of this, the ninjas from other villages couldn't help shaking their heads with a wry smile. This man really shouldn't be a Chunin. This kind of terrifying strength, I am afraid, has surpassed the Shangnin and reached the shadow level. Thinking back to the time when they were so mediocre, they even laughed at Long Yi unscrupulously. They were really ignorant and filled with shame for a while, wishing they could bury their heads in the sand. As expected of my dragon. At this time, Ino returned to his senses, shouted excitedly, and hugged Sakura tightly. Your dragon too, hee. To this nympho's best friend, Sakura could only barely smile. But thinking about it again, Ino's empathy is a good thing for her. It's still not as good as him after all. Gaara smiled wryly and shook her head as she looked at Ryuya, who had fallen back to the ground. After becoming Kazekage, I thought I could get closer to Ryuya. Now it seems that instead of getting closer, it has been left farther away. Such a gap, I am afraid that he will not be able to catch up with his life. It was sealed. On the side of Cheyenne village, the Sha ninja who was ready to support the ban, saw the sealed devil wind, and their hearts were also full of horror. At the same time, I couldn't help but become more curious, who was that figure who performed the sealing technique in the air? If it is a companion, it is undoubtedly a blessing for the entire Sandy Inn. But if it is an enemy, it will also become the entire Cheyenne, a huge disaster that is 100 times more terrifying than the devil wind. I earned it. At this time, he put away the small scroll sealed with the devil wind in his hand, and a light smile appeared on the corner of Long Yi's mouth. If it can be sealed, it can be unsealed. Once unsealed, the terrifying devil wind will instantly reappear. With the power of the devil wind, if this scroll is used properly, it will have unexpected effects. Although the trick of finally cultivating was leaked so easily in front of people, it was not a loss to get this scroll. Ryuya, who is complacent because of this scroll, he still doesn't know that after today's incident, the name of Seal Ninja Takagi Ryuya will be better than Stupid Ryuya, and it will resonate throughout the 5 kingdoms and the entire ninja boundary. The 3 major villages, Wuyin, Laiyan, and Yinyan, who shied away from taking the exam, couldn't get accurate information about Longya's sealing technique because they couldn't see this scene with their own eyes. Of course, these are all later stories. The threat of the devil wind disappeared, and next, the Chunin exam continued. I love Luo. Ryuya somewhere in the demon desert. Radar keeps an eye on Gaara, and some other important people. Although he stopped the devil wind, Gaara also left the village and came to the devil's desert, falling into the trap of the rebels. At this time, Long also understood. No wonder the rebels did not interfere with the prediction of the sandstorm, because in the face of such a terrifying devil wind, the entire Sandy Inn had to exert all their strength, and there was no need to further shorten the time. Come on. And then, the devil wind is like an episode. What should have happened still happened. Gaara, who was careless for a while, was plotted by Fae, and the tailed beast in his body was being pulled out. With the task of protecting Kazekage, when Gaara was in danger, the dragon did not move. What a funny girl. Because he had already heard that Zulaifu, a man of 7 tails, was rushing towards Gaara. And when she arrived, as in the original book, she took the initiative to use Fae's spell to help Gaara share the pain. Seeing this scene, Long couldn't help but smile. I couldn't help but become more interested in this girl who was full of sunshine, who was a little nervous, laughing loudly, and always shouting that she wanted to make friends. Because there is one more tailed beast, Fae's burden has also greatly increased, and the speed of extracting the tailed beast is also much slower. In this way, precious time is gained. The third team arrived as a rescue, and under the leadership of Neji, finally defeated Fae and rescued Gaara and Fu. Like watching a play, during the whole process, Long didn't take any action or interfere, and then got up and left. Dragon 2. At this time, Zitai and Azumo came over. Finally found Long Yi and said anxiously. Feng Ying is gone. We are worried that he has encountered danger and must hurry. Okay. Long also smiled, stopped the shoulders of the two, and walked in the direction of Sha Yin. It's all right. Are you all right? Instead of worrying about him, let's do the math. Accounts. What accounts? Listen to me slowly. Yesterday I and your clones fought a total of 103 landlords, of which I won 97. Among these 97, 21 bombs doubled, 3 times 2 the bombs quadrupled, and one more time, 3 bombs. We know nothing. Hearing Long Yi's algorithm, Zitai and Azuma looked back at each other, then broke free, turned around and ran. As Chunin, they work hard to earn how much money, and Long Yi is trying to clean up their wives. How can you do this? Don't run, everyone is from the same village, and I'll give you a discount. Why do you keep shouting and running? Looking at the two people who were running away quickly, Long also shouted and chased, with a light smile on the corner of his mouth, and finally fooled him. Speaking of which, I am ashamed. In these 2 days of fighting the landlord, Long Yi actually lost more and won less. After all, it is a super brain that has been strengthened, and it can't even fight against 2 clones. Another day later, the Chunin exam came to a close. On Sandian's side, Gaara also took the opportunity to find the rebels and eliminated the hidden dangers. When everything was over, the 3 of them led the team and led the Konoha crowd back. When they return to the village, based on their performance in the exam, Hokage will announce who has advanced. You go first, and I'll catch up soon. After leaving the territory of the Land of Wind, Long also suddenly said something, and then ran straight in a certain direction. 043 The Immortal Duo. It's been 30 minutes, can't you? What the hell, don't get in the way of my ritual. Can't you just omit it every time with such a vulgar prayer? I know it's troublesome, but this is a commandment, what can be done? Besides, what is omission? This is blasphemous. In the depths of a forest, a man wearing a fire cloud robe pulled out a black spear from his chest, and then climbed up from a blood-painted formation. Beside him, there was a man also wearing a Huion robe. He couldn't see his expression while wearing a mask, but he was obviously very impatient. They are none other than Akatsuki's Feijuan codenamed San, and Jiaodu codenamed North, known as the Undead Duo. On the ground not far from the two, there were still 3 people lying on the ground, but it was the 3 Jinin from Taki Ninja Village who participated in the Chunin exam this time. 2 of the men were dead, and the only woman, Fu, was also seriously injured and lay motionless on the ground. Let's go, the next stop is the Land of Thunder. Jiaodu said a word, and then prepared to carry Fu. Scoff. At this moment, a crisp sound of breaking the air sounded, and a sword chi suddenly flew out from the depths of the woods and went straight to Jiaodu. Although it was an accident, as a character in the first Hokage period, Jiao has a wealth of combat experience, reacts extremely quickly, and avoids in time with a back jump. At the same time, he jumped away several times in succession, retreated to the side of the flying section, and looked at the front with a vigilant expression. Whoosh! The next moment, a figure flashed. It was Long Yi. Konoha's stand-in Dragon 2. After seeing Long Yi, Jiaodu's eyes fluctuated slightly, and then he said something. The head is offering a reward of 10 million taels on the black market. Kill, 10 million, so many. Just as Long was about to say hello, he suddenly opened his mouth in surprise when he heard this. He knew of the existence of the black market, many of which were not allowed by the 5 major powers in assassination missions. But I didn't expect that the head of a Konoha Chunin would be so valuable. Kill him. As the financial director of Akatsuki's organization, Kakuto is interested in money. Looking at Long Yi coldly, he said something to Feijuan next to him. But what Jiao didn't know was that even if he killed Long, the person who offered the reward wouldn't pay him even a tael. Because Xiaonan, who also belongs to Akatsuki, does not need to pay Akatsuki's members. However, it was obvious that the dragon did not just happen to pass by, but came to save the nan-tailed Manzuli. So even if it's not for money, Jiaodu has to kill the dragon. Then kill it. Hearing Jiaodu's order, Feijuan shouted excitedly, waved the huge sickle in his hand, and rushed straight to Long Yi excitedly. As a believer of the heretic god, Feijuan's favorite thing is to kill. Compared to Jiao who kills for money, he just kills for murder. Whoosh! Just as Feijuan rushed halfway, the dragon suddenly disappeared from the spot, and when he looked at the next moment, he was already at Feijuan's side. Hey hey! Seeing Long Yi rushing up, Feijuan sneered. He has the body of immortality, and what he is most afraid of is close combat. Moreover, with the curse of the Cthulhu sect, death by blood, as long as you get the blood of the opponent, you can share it through ritual damage, and then knock down or kill the opponent through self-mutilation. In fact, it was with this ability that he was able to defeat Fu of the Seven Tails. At this time, the dragon also rushed to the front, just in time for him to grab the blood. Noba whirlwind. But the next moment, before Feijuan could react, Long also gave a light drink and kicked up. Strengthened 86,400 times, the Konoha cyclone is also known as the 10,000-ton cyclone, and in the face of the immortal flying section, the dragon has no strength at all. This is what you found by yourself. In the proud flying section, I never expected that Long Yi's foot would be so heavy. The next moment, it was like being hit by an asteroid, and then it flew out. Flying section. The corners on the side were full of surprises, and couldn't help shouting, but at this time, there was still the figure of Feijuan. Zhao Du's face turned gloomy for a moment, and he turned to Long Yi again. Where did you get him? I don't know either. Long also expressed helplessness, and then said with a smile. But at least, it has to be hundreds of kilometers away. Quote. Hearing this, Zhao Du frowned again. Although he doesn't believe it, the dragon can kick people hundreds of kilometers with one kick. But one thing is certain, with the power of the kick just now, Feijuan must have fallen to pieces. Although Feijuan has an immortal body, after the limbs are separated, they cannot reorganize themselves, and they cannot move. In other words, Feijuan is impossible to help. Damn intelligence dealers. Zhao Du gritted his teeth and said, obviously, his information is incomplete, and this incomplete information cost him hundreds of thousands of taels. Puff, puff, PFFT. Zhao Du seems to be annoyed, but in fact he has launched an attack. The next moment, countless black lines shot out from the ground, instantly piercing the dragon. Tong. But then, with a muffled sound, Long Yi's bloody corpse turned directly into a stone. Whoosh. Then the sound of breaking the air sounded, and the dragon also appeared behind Zhao Du, and was about to launch an attack. Boom. But at this moment, Zhao Du's clothes cracked instantly, and several masks appeared from behind. With a loud noise, a mask spit out a piece of flame. It is Huodun ninjutsu, head hard. Whoosh. The dragon also seemed to be prepared, and moved away again before being hit by the flames. In just a split second, Long Yi and Zhao both confronted one after another, and their moves were dangerous and deadly, but in the end no one was hurt. Quote. Zhao Du looked at Long Yi, and his face became more and more solemn. He never gave him a chance to fly, just kicked him away, and then escaped his two raids in succession. Zhao can't help but speculate that maybe the dragons also know their abilities. I see. Seeing this, Long also smiled and said directly. Breathing against the earth, manipulating the black thread in the body, stealing the hearts of others, obtaining their chakras and ninjutsu, as well as a secret technique that saves one life. How did you know that? Long Yi really knew his abilities. Zhao Du's face became more and more gloomy, and his eyes became more and more cold when he looked at Long Yi. Once the ability is known to others, it is easy to formulate targeted tactics. In this ninja world, it is extremely dangerous. You guessed it. The corner of Long Yi's mouth chuckled lightly, and at this time his right hand was already holding the hilt of the knife. Draw the sword. Laugh. With a light sound, a sword energy instantly slashed towards Zhao Du. 044 Naneo income under his command. Similar to teleportation, sharp slashing, and terrifying physical skills, these dragons together are too tricky. And the leakage of his own abilities, coupled with the lack of cooperation in the flying section, the objective situation is also very unfavorable for the corners. Mission abandoned. As an experienced ninja, one of the first things to learn is to analyze the situation. After some thought, Zhao Du glanced at Fu on the ground, then turned and jumped into the depths of the woods, disappearing. Run away. Looking at the angle of escape, Long also smiled lightly, but did not chase. Although he knew Jiaodu's ability, he also didn't have a few whole cards. And facing Jiaodu, who has 5 lives, it is not easy to kill him. What's more, Ryuya's goal this time is not Akatsuki, but the Nantai Renzuli. Akatsuki captured Renzuli in order to extract tailed beasts, so before that, he would not kill them. Fu lay motionless on the ground, but not dead, just seriously injured. Go. In order to prevent Akatsuki from leaving and returning, Long also picked up Fu, and then jumped away. After a while, on the edge of a small stream, the dragon also put Fu down and let her sit against a rock. It has to be said that as the human pillar force that seals the tailed beast, its vitality is extremely powerful. Dragon also doesn't know how to heal ninjutsu, so he can't help Fu to heal, but with her strong resilience, she is already much better. Thank you. Fu looked at Long Yi and said with a smile with all her might. Can you be friends with me? Do you know why they want to arrest you? Long ignored it and asked directly. Fu shook her head, all she knew was that the angle was the betrayal of Taki Ninja Village. But as a character in the first generation, if it is for revenge, it is obviously unreasonable. They belong to the Xiao organization, and their purpose is to capture the tailed beasts, gather all the tailed beasts, and create a super weapon. Then, with this weapon, everyone will fear them, and through intimidation and threats, they will achieve the so-called world peace. Long also said briefly, introducing Akatsuki's original purpose under Nagato's leadership. Of course, behind Akatsuki there are Obito, Madara Uchiha, and Kurohue, all of whom have deeper and more dangerous purposes. So it is. After listening, Fu nodded. Since she was capturing the tailed beast, and she was the nan-tailed person Zuri, this made sense. In fact, she also knew that apart from the tailed beast, she had nothing else to be coveted by others. Before this, the Akatsuki organization has been collecting intelligence and accumulating money. It is only recently that they have started official operations. Long also continued to introduce, and then asked another question. But do you know why I chose you in the first place? Fu shook his head slightly, indicating that he did not know. Because you were the easiest. Long also had a serious expression and said mercilessly. Except for the wild, elusive Sanwei, among the 8 people, you are not the weakest. But the Taki Ninja village you are in is the only small village with a person's Zuli, but other than the 5 hidden villages. Quote. Quote. Hearing Long Yi's words, Fu opened his mouth, but in the end said nothing. Even though he was seriously injured, the smile that never disappeared on his face finally disappeared completely at this time, replaced by a struggle and pain in the depths of his pupils. As Ryuya said, the reason why she became Akatsuki's first target was because Taki Shinobi was weak and she didn't have a strong enough backer. But she doesn't resent Taki Ninja Village because of this, she loves her own village and her companions. But that's why she had to leave Taki Ninja Village. Today, due to the appearance of Long Yi, although Akatsuki has temporarily retreated, he will definitely come again. At that time, if Fu continued to stay in Taki Ninja Village, it would definitely affect the village. In fact, the 2 companions who were killed today are proof. For the safety of the village, she must stay away. What are your plans for the future? Just when Fu thought about this and felt pain in her heart, Long also suddenly asked. Wandering around. Fu raised her head, the corners of her mouth turned up to reveal a bright smile, but her tears couldn't be controlled. It's like this. Long also looked at Fu, and suddenly said seriously. Follow me. What did you say? Fu couldn't help being stunned, and looked at Long Yi dazedly. I said later, you can follow me. Long also solemnly said it again, and then extended his hand to Fu. Then we. Fu regained his senses, and after a long while, he asked tentatively. Can we be friends? Yes. Excellent. Fu, who is still seriously injured, shouted happily and jumped up. He didn't hold Longya's outstretched hand, but threw himself on Longya's body and hugged him like a spoiled child. Quote. Long was also speechless for a moment. This is really an emotional guy. But fortunately, the goal has been achieved. Due to the appearance of the butterfly Longyi, many things in this world have changed. But the only thing that doesn't change is people's hearts. So, some people are destined to do something. It can be seen from the attack of the undead duo that Xiao has completed the preliminary preparations and began to formally hunt the tailed beast. And this is also in line with the original plot in terms of time. And once the tailed beasts are gathered by Akatsuki, the fourth ninja war will be the resurrection of the 10 tails, the resurrection of Madara Uchiha, and the resurrection of Kagaya Otsutsuki. There will be an egg under the nest, and at that time, the dragon, as a member of this world, will not be able to survive alone. If that's the case, let's stop Akatsuki's plan from now on. Therefore, Long also rescued Fu, and received his subordinates, and firmly controlled Nanao in his own hands. Of course, Akatsuki will keep coming to her door, but facing Akatsuki now is much easier than facing Ban and Kagaya in the not-too-distant future. Besides, Long is not Fu, and behind him is the entire hidden village of Konoha. As for bringing trouble or even disaster to Konoha, Long also didn't feel anything wrong. After all, everything he did, although the starting point was for himself, also helped all mankind at the same time. Moreover, even if the dragon does not accept Fu, Konoha with 9 tails will be approached by Akatsuki. Can you go? Everything is in order, Long also asked Fu. It doesn't seem possible. Fu smiled awkwardly, she was too excited just now, and now the wound hurts badly. In this case, there is no other way, and the dragon has no choice but to carry Fu. After delaying for a while, Zitai and Azumo led Konoha to go far away, and Long was too lazy to chase, and it was inconvenient to have direct contact with Konoha with Fu at this time. But in any case, go back to Konoha first, and the dragon also carried Fu, and ran straight to the direction of Konoha Hidden Village. 045 advanced to Shangnan. A day later, the dragon also returned to Konoha. As a human column force, Fu's existence is extremely sensitive, and the dragon does not want Konoha to know that Fu has been put under his command. Therefore, before entering the village, Fu was temporarily placed outside the village, somewhere safe. Coincidentally, after all this was done, Zitai and Azumo brought a group of Konoha's ninja, and they just arrived. Everyone just met, entered the village together, and went a hand in the task to Hokage together. According to everyone's performance in this exam, I officially announce as Hokage. In Hokage's office, Tsunade watched Sandian's detailed introduction to each candidate's performance in the exam, and then announced it directly. Lilac, Tien, Hinata, Inazuka Ya, Oil Girl Shino, Haruno Sakura, Yamanaka Ino, Autumn Road Choji, are promoted to Chunin. Excellent. Promoted. Hearing this result, everyone couldn't help but get excited. Wait. But then, everyone suddenly found out. Why isn't Neji's name? In the information submitted by Sa Yin, Cage specifically pointed out that Hyuga Neji performed exceptionally well. Tsunade smiled and said directly. That's why I announce that Neji Hyuga will be promoted directly to Joinin. Junin. Hearing this, everyone was stunned at first, and then they couldn't help but nod their heads. That's right, with Neji's strength, it is indeed enough to be a Jonin. Besides, in fact, when he was a Genin, Neji was always used as a Chunin. And when he heard that he was directly promoted to Jonin, Neji, who had always been calm, couldn't help but feel happy. In addition, at this time, Tsunade spoke again and said with a smile. Besides Neji, there is another person who has also been promoted to Shangnan. One more person. Who else? Everyone couldn't help but stunned. The names of those who passed the second assessment had already been read, so how could there be one more person, and they were also promoted to Shangnan? He is deliberately selling out. After a pause, Tsunade announced loudly. Takagi Ryuya. Dragon 2. Me. For a time, not only other people, but even Long himself was a little dumbfounded. He didn't take the exam, how could he qualify? Actually, this time is both the Chunin exam and the Shengnin exam. At this time, Tsunade solved the puzzle and looked at Ryuya, Ziti, and Izumo. Remember, the task I gave you. Could it be that? That's right, that mission is the content of the Shengnin exam. So it is. For a time, the dragon also fully understood. No wonder they were supposed to be dispatched on the mission of Joinin, but instead they were assigned to 3 Chunin. It turned out that Tsunade had deliberately arranged the Joinin exam. In other countries, in the complicated situation of rebellion in their own country, the task of protecting the shadow is indeed qualified as the content of the Junin exam. In comparison, the seemingly complicated and cruel Chunin exam seemed a little childish. So it is. Zitai and Izumo, who also wanted to understand, were frustrated. Compared to Long Yi, who directly sealed the Devil Wind and rescued Feng Ying and all the candidates, the two of them who directly lost sight of their target, their performance was too poor, and of course they couldn't advance. Congratulations. It's been a long journey, go back and rest. After the official congratulations, Tsunade said with a smile. And when everyone was about to leave, he added another sentence. The dragon also stayed. Dear senior sister. Everyone left, only himself, and Long couldn't help but look at Tsunade with some worry. You're already a Jonin after all. Tsunade rolled his eyes, then waved his hand and said. Don't worry, I won't ravage you today, I have something to ask you. That's fine. Long also patted his chest, could not help but sighed in relief, and then said with a smile. Senior sister wants to ask, junior brother knows everything you can say. After leaving Sandian village, you were out of the team for a while. Tsunade looked at Ryuya, his expression suddenly serious. Where did you go and what did you do? I went to save a man. I didn't expect Tsunade's news to be so well informed. In fact, even if Tsunade didn't ask, Long was ready to take the initiative to say it. Immediately afterwards, the matter of saving him from Fu was explained one by one. As valuable information, and in order to avoid Asma's sacrifice, Long also emphasized the ability of the undead duo. Of course, Long did not say anything about bringing Fu under his command and bringing him back. It is only said that after he defeated Jiaodu, Fu left on his own. This way. After listening to Ryuya's report, Tsunade couldn't help but ponder. In fact, as Hokage, Tsunade already knew something about Akatsuki. After all, Jiraiya had been tracking Orochimaru before that, so he came into contact with Akatsuki. As an organization composed entirely of S-class rebels, Jiraiya is also full of worries. In addition to Jiraiya, there are other sources of information, also gathered here in Tsunade. According to this information, it can be seen that the Shao organization is brewing a big conspiracy, but what it is impossible to judge for a while. Tailed Beast. Only then did Tsunade come to a conclusion after hearing Long Yi's report, and then he couldn't help frowning. The Tailed Beast, as a powerful weapon, is also a weight to balance the strength of each village. The actions of Akatsuki's organization will undoubtedly have a huge impact on the 5 major villages, and even affect the entire ninja world. Other photographers must be notified immediately. Thinking of this, Tsunade immediately ordered people to come and summon other villages to warn them of Akatsuki's attack on Renzuli. At the same time, Tsunade frowned again, and when he reminded the other villages, Zuli, a member of their village, was not in the village at this time. Should be back soon. But counting the time, 2 years have passed, and Naruto, who followed Jirai to practice, should be coming back soon. Moreover, with Jirai by his side, even if he is not in the village, even Akatsuki should not be able to do anything to Naruto. Because of Akatsuki, Tsunade suddenly became busy. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Long also quickly slipped away. The woman repeats, Who knows if this old woman will suddenly rise up in a while and will ravage him again. What to study? Walking on the streets of Konoha, enjoying the sun and air, the dragon couldn't help thinking. After being promoted to Shangnin, he has obtained the qualification to learn B-level ninjutsu, and now, he is also lacking skills. Go and ask the teacher. Without a good idea for a while, Long also simply walked to his and Sarutobi's residence. 046 Start the war. Fire escape. The art of fireball. Boom. As Long Yi shouted loudly, a flame shot out from his mouth, and then turned into a huge fireball with a diameter of nearly 10 meters. Finally done. Looking at the fireball that disintegrated on the water surface after flying dozens of meters, Long couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. In the past 2 years, although he has been cultivating the seal of the 4 images, he occasionally does other cultivation practices. The most important thing is that after taking Sir Ufei's secret medicine for 2 years, Long Yi's meridians have been corrected to some extent, and his cultivation talent has been improved accordingly. In this way, Long Yi finally mastered the art of fireball. Open black lens bracket Takagi Ryuya close black lens bracket. Rank, Joinin. Organs, ear, brain, heart. Skill, fireball technique, C-class ninjutsu. Millennium kill strengthen plus 86,400 E-level physical skills. Substitute jutsu strengthen plus 86400 E-class ninjutsu. Draw sword and strengthen plus 86400 E-level physical art. Toad oil bomb enhancement plus 86400 C-class ninjutsu. Konoha whirlwind strengthen plus 86400 C-level ninjutsu. Clone jutsu strengthen plus 86400 E-class ninjutsu. Seal of the 4 signs strengthening plus 86400 S-level ninjutsu. At this time, look at the personal page again, and the technique of the fireball has appeared in the skill list. After how fireball was trained, Long also did not rest, and immediately started a new practice. Hi, Shu. 2 Done. Earth flow wall. After the seal was completed, Long also shouted loudly and slapped his hands on the ground. But unfortunately, there was no movement at all. It has to be said that even if Long Yi's meridians are corrected a little, his talent is still very low. Sarutobi's secret medicine, in addition to repairing and correcting the meridians, the main function is actually to generate chakras with other attributes. After 2 years of taking the medicine, in addition to the original fire attribute, the dragon also unearthed an additional attribute chakra. With earth attribute chakra, you can practice earth escape ninjutsu. But ninjutsu, as the foundation of a village, is strictly controlled. Unless it is the secret tradition of each family, you must rise to the corresponding level before you can learn it, and you cannot teach it privately. Therefore, even as the 3rd Hokage, Sarutobi Hidden cannot teach Ryuya villages ninjutsu at will. Of course, the seal of the 4 elephants is an exception, which was obtained by the dragon, accidentally, and with the tacit approval of the 3 generations, the others turned a blind eye. After being promoted to Jonin, he was granted permission to learn B-rank ninjutsu in the village. What to learn specifically? After consulting Sun Zan, Long Yi decided to learn the earth escape ninjutsu. After this ninjutsu is performed, a wall of earth can be quickly raised to defend against the enemy's ninjutsu attacks. As a B-rank holdback, it has a decent defense. Long Yi's current skills include displacement, attack, and control, but he lacks defense. Although the avatar technique is fast, it has scope and other limitations after all. And most importantly, avatars can only protect themselves, not teammates, and buildings. And the earth flow wall just makes up for this. 2 Done. Earth flow wall. Long is also used to his own aptitude, so even though he has not made progress, he is not discouraged, and he is still meticulous in his cultivation. After being promoted to Junin, the quest level becomes higher and the reward increases. Correspondingly, the number of tasks has also decreased. After all, there are so many advanced tasks. As for the more low-level tasks, dispatching the Shangren is overkill, and as a Shangren, I am embarrassed to grab the reward from the Chunin and the lower. In this way, the dragon has more time to practice. 2 Done. Earth Flow Wall. After a few days, as Long Yi shouted loudly, although there was still no earth wall rising, the ground in front shook slightly. Long couldn't help but feel happy for a while, finally making progress. Hokage summons. Just as he was about to continue his practice, he suddenly got a message, and Long also moved his shoulders. It seemed that he had a mission. Everyone is. Immediately after he came to Hokage's office, when he saw Kakashi, Akai, Asuma, Hong and other Shangnin, Long couldn't help but startled. With so many elite Shangin gathered together, it seems that this task is not easy. The people have already arrived. Seeing that the dragon has also arrived, Tsunade, who is Hokage, has a serious face and directly announced. This time is not an ordinary mission, but a war. War. Hearing this, not only Long Yi, but also Kakashi and the others changed their expressions instantly. The ninja world where force is supreme, from the very beginning of its establishment, there has never been less war. Not counting the war-torn Warring States period, even in the so-called peaceful period after the establishment of the 5 major villages, there have been 3 ninja wars in succession. After the Third Ninja World War, Konoha has enjoyed 20 years of peace. Of course, even so, there are some battles such as the Nine-Tailed Rampage and the Orochimaru invasion. At this time, Tsunade announced so solemnly that a war was coming, how could everyone not be surprised? In this battle, Konoheian Village and Sandian Village form a coalition, and the goal is Tianjiguo Yinin Village. Ignoring the horror of the crowd, Tsunade spoke again and introduced the details directly. 2 years ago, Orochimaru and Saiyan launched the Konoha destruction opportunity, causing heavy damage to Konoha. On the other hand, Orochimaru also assassinated the leader of Saiyan village at the time, the 4th Kazekage. Therefore, it has also become the most wanted object in Saiyan village. After that battle, Konoha and Sandian, who were hit hard at the same time, had to establish an alliance again in order to deal with the threats from other great powers. After 2 years, the 2 villages have recovered and regained their strength. In addition to the previous Chunin exam, Gaara found the rebels, and Sa-Yin cleared the internal hidden dangers. Therefore, now is the time to impose sanctions on Orochimaru who launched the crime back then, as well as the Yinin village under his command. Because it involves country to country and village to village battles, there is no doubt that this is a war. So that's how it is. After listening, everyone understood, and at the same time secretly relieved. Fortunately, it is only a local war against a small country, not a war between a big country that affects the entire ninja world. Moreover, this time, Konoha and Saiyan united to deal with a weak voice ninja village, it should not be a problem. Of course, war is war after all, and all those present are elite Junin, and it will not be taken lightly. As a ninja, the most important character is vigilance. Go get ready. After speaking, Tsunade waved his hand and officially ordered. Yes. Everyone took the lead and left the Hokage office. In preparation for the battle, in addition to various ninja tools, there are also subordinates. As a Shangnin, in this war, each person will lead 3 subordinates and act in the form of a small team. 047 Long Yi Squad. The original 3rd class, the current Akai team, the Captain Matekai, the members Hyuga Neji, Li Lok, and Tiantian. The original 8th squad, the current Red team, the leader of the Red Sunset, the members of the team Hanada, the Oil Girl Shino, and Inazukaya. The original 10th class, the current Asuma squad, the Captain Sarutobi Asuma, the members Nara Shikamaru, Yamanaka Ino, and Akamichi Choji. The original 7th class, the current Kakashi squad, Captain Hitaki Kakashi, members Haruno Sakura, Aiz Udon, Kakashi Mohuong. The original 9th squad, the current Ryuya squad, the Captain Takagi Ryuya, the members Miyamoto Tomohisa, Ishihara Coriander, Sarutobi Konohamaru. Among them, the 3rd, 8th, and 10th classes have not changed their personnel. The 7th class, because Naruto and Sakura were not there, temporarily replaced 2 shamanen who just graduated from the ninja school this year. In the 9th class, because Moonlight Blast had other tasks, the captain was also replaced by Long, and a new genin was also replaced. In this way, among the 5 squads, in terms of staffing, the Akai squad with 2 Junin and 2 Chunin is the strongest. And the Dragon also has the weakest team with 1 upper ninja and 3 lower ninjas. Dragon 2. Dragon 2. After 2 years, they finally teamed up with Longya again. Tomohisa and Coriander were full of excitement and joy in their hearts. I don't want to be with him. I have to wait for Naruto to come back. On the other side, Konohamaru pointed at the dragon and shouted, and was getting angry with the eldest young master. Looking at the 3 people in front of him, Long was also expressionless, but he was thinking in his heart, are you sure this is not a joke? You know, even if the 2 villages join forces to deal with Yin Ninja, this is a war after all. Moreover, the other party is Orochimaru, who knows what tricks there will be. Under such circumstances, he even made Long Yi, a newly promoted Jonin, as the captain, and assigned him 3 subordinates. Is this a human thing? Long couldn't help but suspect that Tsunade must still remember his revenge. Compared to Long Yi, looking at the runny-nosed Udon and the cute yellow with 2 broom braids, Kakashi is also unlovable. Speaking of which, the 3 of them, Konohamaru, who graduated this year, were originally a team, and Ebisu was in charge of Jonin. Just graduated, and I haven't even done the D-level mission, so why is it arranged in this war? Longya, the future of my Sarutobi family will be handed over to you. At this time, Sarutobi Hizen stood by the window, looked in the direction of the square, and said something silently in his heart. The reason why the newly graduated Konohamaru and the others were arranged into this operation was at the behest of Hizen. His purpose is very simple, let Konohamaru grow rapidly in this war. Because Konohamaru's parents sacrificed early, Hizen was full of pity for this grandson, so much so that Konohamaru still had a childish temper. How can such a Konohamaru bear the responsibility of the Sarutobi clan in the future? Therefore, Hiyazaki arranged Konohamaru for this mission. It is to let him experience the cruelty of war, and grow rapidly amid blood and death. It has to be said that the practice of hijab is cruel, but the world of ninjas is like this. Of course, Hizen is to train Konohamaru, not to let him die. So, he handed Konohamaru to Long Yi, his most trusted close disciple. Even the 2 companions of Konohamaru, Hiyazaki arranged for a reliable Kakashi. Go get ready and leave tomorrow. On this side of the square, the team has been allocated. As the captain, Long also ordered. This operation is a top secret. When the mission starts, the team members will not get any news. They only need to follow the command of the captain. Yes. Juju and Coriander had no objection, and immediately went back to prepare. Humph. Konohamaru, who was forced to be under Ryuya's hands, snorted softly, still full of dissatisfaction. In Konohamaru's heart, besides grandfather 3 generations of Hokage, the person who admires most is Naruto. Naruto wasn't here for such an important action, and he was already very unhappy. What made him even more unhappy and even angry was that he was assigned to Naruto's number 1 enemy, Ryuya. When Orochimaru invaded, Ryuya and Naruto became the hero of Konoha. But Long was also successfully promoted to Chunin, but Naruto did not. Later, when he rescued Sasuke, Naruto was seriously injured, but Long Yi defeated Junmalu and rescued everyone, and his prestige had already overshadowed Naruto. Until recently, in the new Chunin exam, the dragon also shined again, and it was already a Junin. Recently, I have always heard people in the village praise Ryuya, but it seems that Naruto has been completely forgotten. As Naruto's hardcore younger brother, how could Konohamaru not be angry? And Ryuya is taken for granted as Naruto's number 1 enemy. Seduction. The more he thought about it, the more angry he became. Konohamaru clenched his fists and suddenly attacked Ryuya. And his first move was to inherit Naruto's seduction technique. The next moment, Konohamaru turned into a falling beauty. Hey hey. Konohamaru laughed inwardly, this ninjutsu invented by his elder brother, but defeated his grandfather and teacher, and the dragon will definitely be tricked. Long also looked at Konohamaru's seduction technique, looked up and down, suddenly sighed, and then turned to leave. How is this possible? His seduction technique actually failed, and Konohamaru was stunned for a moment. It's a child after all. The dragon who left also secretly regretted that his appearance was indeed beautiful, but his body had no content. Children and adults have different understandings of beauty. Strengthen the technique of flaming fireballs. 60 days have passed since the last strengthening, and the dragon has once again obtained an opportunity for infinite strengthening. There is only one skill left, and there is no choice. Infinite enhancement begins. Target. Skill, Art of Fireball. Close black lens bracket. Arrogant Fireball Technique Enhancement +1. Arrogant Fireball Technique Enhancement +2. The Art of the Fireball Strengthen +10, the power is increased. Close black lens bracket. Arrogant Fireball Technique Enhancement +11. The Art of the Fireball Strengthen +100, the attack distance is increased. Close black lens bracket. Arrogant Fireball Technique Enhancement +101. The Art of the Fireball Strengthen +1000, the attack range is increased. Close black lens bracket. Arrogant Fireball Technique Enhancement +1001. The system prompts began to sound one after another, and Long watched for a while before choosing to block again. The next night was silent, and in the early morning of the next day, the teams were ready and assembled again. Go. Following an order, under the leadership of the captain, they left Konoha one after another and followed different routes. And from the moment of leaving the village, it means that the war has begun. 048 Nuclear Fireball Technique. This crusade against Yinan village is a joint operation. In order to achieve the effect of the raid, the two hidden villages must act together. The country of Tien, where Yinan village is located, borders the country of fire where Konoha is located, and is located in the north of the country of fire. The land of wind, where Sandian is located in the west of Konoha, separated by two small countries. Therefore, the two parties agreed that Sha Yin would first pass through the kingdom of Chuan, enter the kingdom of fire, and then head to the northern border of the kingdom of fire. Konoha's side will start a little later, but on the same date, it will meet with Sandian at the northern border. Once the two sides complete the alliance, they will immediately enter the country of Tien and launch a surprise attack on Yinren. Follow me. In order to avoid attracting attention, the various teams of Konoha followed different routes after leaving the village. The route and travel date are known only to the captain. Understood. Facing Long Yi's orders, Tomohisa and Coriander responded immediately. Huh. Konohamaru snorted lightly, but his face was full of dissatisfaction. This mission is dangerous. Long also glanced at Konohamaru, thinking that it was necessary to explain some situations first. If not, how dangerous is it? Before Long also finished speaking, Konohamaru interrupted directly and asked a question in disapproval. Will die. Long Yi's face sank, and no further explanations were made, and he said two words in a deep voice. Will. Hearing this, Konohamaru, who was still proud just now, turned pale and panicked. After all, he was only 12 or 13 years old and had just graduated from the ninja school. In contrast, Tomohisa, and even Coriander, who has always been cowardly, showed no reaction on his face. Although it is only a shinobi, after all, he has graduated for 2 years, has done many tasks, and has faced death more than once. And most importantly, they absolutely trust the dragon, and believe that as long as the dragon is there, they will not be killed. Next, According to the established time and route, the Long Yi team continued to march. It took half a day in a flash, and everything went smoothly. Open black lens bracket. This reinforcement is over. Close black lens bracket. In the evening, the system reminded me that the technique of the fireball has been strengthened. Rest. In order to take care of the 3 genin in Long Yi's team, their route is the shortest and the time is the most abundant. When it was time for dinner, Long also gave an order, then stopped, and turned on the system while taking out dry food to eat. 1 kilometer in diameter. The moment he saw it, Long was also startled instantly, and a mouthful of dry food that he hadn't swallowed stuck in his throat. The choked dragon rolled his eyes and took a few sips of water before finally rushing down. Is this still a fireball? At the same time, looking at the skill introduction, Long was still full of shock. After 86,400 enhancements, the power of the fireball technique has been greatly increased. And the main performance is the size. The fireball that was originally 10 meters in diameter has now become a behemoth with a diameter of 1 kilometer. Not only that, but after the how fireball was impacted, it would explode. The surging flames and the gusts of wind will cover a radius of 10,000 meters, or 10 kilometers. Of course, with such a huge power, the release distance of the how fireball has also been greatly improved, and the limit can reach a terrifying 100 kilometers. Just imagine, if there is no such release distance, a huge fireball is sprayed on the feet, it is not to deal with the enemy, but to commit suicide. It's a nuclear fireball. It wasn't until a long time ago that Long Yi came back to his senses, and the power was too terrifying. Nima. Immediately afterwards, Long Yi smiled wryly again. The system was so stubborn that he rubbed such a big fireball, and there was no miniature version. That is to say, as long as the technique of the flamboyant fireball is used, only this big guy can be released. Just imagine, would a dragon dare to throw a nuclear fireball of this power casually? In this way, the power is indeed great, but it seems to be a bit too big. Under normal circumstances, the dragon would not dare to use it at all. This is not equivalent to the arrogant fireball technique that he spent 2 or 3 years refining, and it was directly smashed. Alas! Thinking of this, Long also wanted to cry without tears, which was simply the most speechless reinforcement for him. Bang! Seeing the dragon also sitting there, he was happy and sighed for a while, especially just now. He rolled his eyes when he was choked on the dry food. Konohamaru snorted lightly. If it weren't for the 2 saliva, Long would probably be the first Junin in history to be choked to death by dry food, and he couldn't help but feel even more disdain in his heart. What will die? Such a cowardly captain. It is possible to perform some advanced tasks. He said he would die just now, and he must have been deliberately trying to scare him. Thinking that he was really frightened and didn't dare to say a word for half a day, Konohamaru became more and more annoyed. I'm Konohamaru, so I won't be scared by you. In addition to being annoyed, Konohamaru let out a loud roar and rushed directly to Ryuya. Only with fists can he wash away his shame. Konohamaru even took the initiative to attack Long Yi. Tomohisa and Coriander, who were quietly eating dry food next to him, snorted softly, but they were only 2 times lower. Did they forget the name of the Great Demon King back then? As for Konohamaru, who rushed up, Long Yi didn't lift his head, and was still researching the system there. Whoops! At this moment, with a soft sound, 2 figures suddenly sprang from the grass next to them, holding the sharp kunai in their hands, and rushing towards Konohamaru, one from the left and the other from the right. This is... What these 2 people are wearing is clearly the forehead protection of Yin Nin. Seeing this scene, Tomohisa and Coriander's expressions changed dramatically. But Konohamaru was too far away to rescue them with their abilities. How could? And at this time, Konohamaru was completely frightened in the face of the 2 Yin ninjas full of murderous intent. He couldn't understand why there was Yin Ren here, and suddenly jumped out to kill him. In fact, even if Konohamaru wasn't frightened, with his strength, he couldn't deal with the sneak attack and pincer attack of these 2 Tonin. The speed of the two tonin was very fast, and the next moment was already in front of them, and they were about to stab Kuu into Konohamaru's body. Whoosh! Just at this critical moment, with a soft sound, a figure flashed. It was Long Yi. Immediately afterwards, Long Yi's forearm slammed heavily on the two yin ninjas. In the past 2 years, under the guidance of Rigian, in addition to practicing the seal of the 4 elephants, Long Yi also has ninja basics such as taijutsu, shuriken jutsu, and the various uses of check cards. And while practicing the seal of the 4 elephants, Long Yi's foundation is also very solid. If not, how could he be promoted to Jonin? Boom! With 2 muffled noises, the 2 yin ren, who were hit by the dragon in the abdomen, spurted blood from their mouths and noses, and then passed out. Come out! Regardless of the frightened Konohamaru, he threw the 2 tonin aside, and the dragon also turned to the bushes and said lightly, 049 Reincarnation of Dirty Earth. Someone. After regaining their senses, Tomohisa and Coriander who ran to Longya's side, and Konohamaru who hid behind Longya, the 3 of them couldn't help but stare in the direction Longya indicated. Woohoo tilde woo tilde. The bushes swayed slightly, but no one came out, but a strange flute sound came. Flute. Tomohisa and the others were startled again, and just when they were wondering, the surrounding trees suddenly began to twist, and then turned into giant pythons, crawling towards them with blood-red letters. The 3 of them were startled and wanted to run away, but suddenly found that their bodies were not obeying orders and could not move at all. The next moment, the python had wrapped around their bodies. Under the entanglement of huge power, the 3 people who were suffocated in an instant saw in horror that their bodies were decaying and their flesh and blood were collapsing. Illusionism. At this time, Long Yi, who was in the same situation, not only did not panic at all, but a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. Whoa! The next moment, the giant python that was twisting the dragon was released instantly. What's the matter? Immediately afterwards, the figure that had been observed invisibly suddenly appeared. Just when the figure was puzzled, those giant pythons were already crawling towards her. Only then did she realize that she couldn't move. The next moment, he was entangled by the giant python, and his body quickly decayed and collapsed under the enormous power. What happened? Suddenly, Tomohisa, Coriander, and Konohamaru came back to their senses. His back was soaked in cold sweat, and he couldn't help but shudder when he looked at the same woods as before. The illusion has failed. Duoyu also fell into his own illusion, so it was not simply cracked, but rebounded. The information is wrong. Illusion is not only his weakness, but his strength. It's him who's getting stronger again. At this time, the voice sounded, and Tomohisa and the others saw that there were 5 people standing not far in front of them. Yes, just now the dragon also said, "Come out," and sure enough, someone was in ambush. 4 males and 1 female all wore sound forehead guards. Among them, there was a horizontal flute on the woman's lips. Obviously, the strange flute sound just now was played by this woman. But if you look closely, the woman is like a clay sculpture, standing there motionless. And her dark gray eyes, without the slightest look, obviously she has lost consciousness. Dragon 2. Tomohisa and the others, who had been caught in illusion just now, fully understood. They quickly turned their heads to look at Longya next to them, and then couldn't help but startled. I saw Long also looking at the 5 yin ren in front of him with a very serious expression. It turned out to be you. After a long while, Long also spoke, with a hint of coldness in his voice. The flute sound just now did indeed contain illusion. If it was 2 years ago, Long might have explained it. But now, after strengthening his brain, he has acquired the ability of illusion only me. No matter who casts the illusion, it will be controlled by him. It was with this ability that the dragon directly countered the opponent. At the same time, seeing the appearance of the caster in the illusion, the dragon was an accident. At this time, the illusion was solved, and seeing the 5 people in front of him, he couldn't help but verify his guess. The enemy attacking is the 5 people of Yunnan led by Junmalu, The reincarnation of Dirty Earth. In the battle for Sasuke, the 5 people of Yin and Nin have all been killed, and Long is also a participant. There is absolutely nothing wrong with this. At this time, when he appeared in front of him again, there was no explanation other than the technique of reincarnation from dirty soil. The appearance of the 5 people like clay sculptures, and the gray-black whites of their eyes also illustrate this point. It's an honor to be the first Hokage-sama. It looks like the plans have leaked. At the same time, Konoha's other teams also encountered interception and sneak attacks. In addition to the ordinary sound forbearance, it also includes the masters of the reincarnation of the Dirty Earth. Different from the 5 people of Yin Nin, these masters, including the first and second Hokage, have no will of their own, and they are just walking dead who retain almost 10% of their strength when they are alive. All the teams were attacked at the same time. Obviously, this battle plan has been known to the Sound Ninja Village. In fact, Orochimaru, who is good at bewitching people, has spies in every village and in every position. Although Yin'an village is small in scale, the espionage system headed by Do is no weaker than the 5 hidden villages. A head-to-head confrontation. In the face of the joint raid of the 2 hidden villages, after getting the information, Orochimaru did not retreat and hide, but took the initiative to send someone to intercept it. This shows that Orochimaru is going to compete head-on with Saiyan and Konoha. A small village in the district dared to challenge the alliance of the 2 big hidden villages. I have to say that Orochimaru is really crazy. This is trouble. Although Orochimaru is crazy, he is not stupid. The reason why he has this confidence is because of reincarnation from dirty soil. Looking at the 5 people in front of Yin and Nin, Long also sighed secretly. Speaking of which, he actually helped Orochimaru. 2 years ago, Orochimaru invaded Konoha, and in the 4 purple flame formation, the first and second Hokage were reincarnated, and they fought against the 3rd Hokage. But at that time, Orochimaru still needed to be manipulated by the side, unable to join the siege of the 3 generations of Hokage. But now, there is no sign of Orochimaru, that is to say, the reincarnation of Orochimaru has become more mature. The reincarnated person only needs to issue an order, and the reincarnated person can execute it, and there is no need to manipulate it. This level is almost the same as in the original book, during the 4th Ninja World War. Obviously, in the past 2 years, while Long Yi, Naruto and the others have been practicing hard, Orochimaru's strength has also improved. In the original plot, Orochimaru, whose hands were sealed by 3 generations, could no longer use ninjutsu, and his strength had hardly changed after 2 years. In this world, Long Yi cut off the 4 purple flame formation with 1 sword and saved the 3 generations of Hokage, but at the same time, Orochimaru's hands were also saved. Therefore, Orochimaru can achieve today's achievements. In fact, Long also helped him. No way. It's really frustrating to have created a formidable opponent by hand. But if Long Yi was given another chance to choose, he would still do it. Because after he saved 3 generations, he also gained a lot of benefits. Retired Hokage's personal guidance, Sarutobi's secret medicine to correct the meridians. Without these, the dragon would not have the strength it is today. Back then, with Long Yi's knife, the 3rd generation, Orochimaru, and Long also benefited, so it could be regarded as a triple win. However, while Ryuya and the others won 3 times, there was one person who was miserable, and that was Sasuke. After all, Sasuke 2 years later may not be able to kill Orochimaru with healthy hands. If he can't get rid of it, he is afraid that he will become a container for Orochimaru. I am sorry, Urzuzi. Thinking of this, Long also smiled and could only apologize. Kill him. And at this moment, with a light drink from Junmalu, the 4 people on the opposite side rushed forward. 050 He is a dragon. This operation is a war to unite with Saiyan and crusade against Yin'an village. At present, the action has been exposed, and it is about to fight against the 5 people of Yin Nin, who were reincarnated in the dirt. You protect yourselves. Brief and to the point, After explaining a few words quickly, the dragon also flickered, and directly greeted Junmalu and the others. War. Although Long Yi didn't say much, the content was too shocking. It was not until the dragon also fought the enemy that Tomohisa and the others came back to their senses. Although they have never experienced it, they also understand how cruel these two words are from the paragraphs of history told by the teacher. Really will die. At this time, Konohamaru couldn't help but remember that Ryuya said, will die, at the beginning. Since it is a war, of course people will die. In fact, if it wasn't for the dragon's action just now, he would have died under the suffering of Yin-Nin. Thinking of passing by death, Konohamaru's heart was full of panic, and he couldn't help but slumped on the ground with his legs weak. Seeing this, Tomohisa and Vanilla immediately changed their positions and protected Konohamaru one after the other. Although they can't stand Konohamaru's temperament, as a team, they are partners who rely on each other. Seeing Tomohisa and Coriander acting like instincts, Konohamaru couldn't help but be moved, and then filled with shame. At the beginning, he also laughed at Tomohisa and the others, and he still had to endure after so long after graduation. He even boasted how brave he would be if he encountered an enemy. Now, he didn't even have the courage to stand up, but Tomohisa and Coriander protected him regardless of their previous suspicions. Thank you. Just as he was about to thank him, Konohamaru suddenly realized that the two of them were not looking at him. Without blinking, he stared nervously ahead. Yes, the dragon is already fighting the enemy too. This is... Konohamaru returned to his senses, and quickly looked over. Who knew what happened next, which shocked him instantly. I saw the dragon also flashed, appeared behind an enemy, and then quickly drew a knife and slashed, directly splitting the enemy in half. But before Konohamaru and the others were happy, the other party's body healed in an instant. There was no injury at all, and he rushed towards Long Yi again with a ferocious face. Reincarnation of dirty earth. In addition to being horrified, what Long Yi said just now suddenly sounded. The opponents are the 5 people of Yin and Nin, who were reincarnated by dirty soil. For this S-level forbidden technique, they, as the Shinen, originally knew nothing about it. But in the defense battle 2 years ago, Orochimaru was reincarnated into the first and second Hokage, so this technique is widely known in Konoha. What to do? It was originally an enemy of 4, not to mention that the opponent was still immortal. No, I want to fight too. I couldn't help worrying about Ryuya. Konohamaru instantly gained courage, suddenly felt that his legs were no longer soft, he stood up directly, and wanted to go up to help. The other party is 4 people, and they are also 4 people, at least they will not suffer in terms of numbers. Think of what the dragon said too. But at this moment, Tomohisa suddenly reached out to stop Konohamaru. Long also, he said. Konohamaru was stunned for a moment, then remembered that Ryuya's last words told them to protect themselves instead of participating in the war. But, although he understood that he had to obey the captain's order, Konohamaru couldn't help but feel anxious. The other party was the 5 people of Yin and Nin reincarnated from the dirt, and there was only one dragon. Don't worry. At this time, Tomohisa, as a general of wisdom, showed a smile that he was in control of everything, and said something meaningful. He's a dragon too. He's a dragon. Konohamaru was stunned for a moment, and after reminiscing about this sentence, she couldn't help but look at the field with a bit of daze. Dragon didn't pay attention to the reaction of Konohamaru and the others, and he didn't care. To use Tomohisa's words, the other party is the 5 people of Yinin. Even Longya, even if Tayuya was abolished when he came up, facing the remaining 4, he had to concentrate and not dare to be distracted at all. Nova Whirlwind. Seizing an opportunity, Long also kicked Junmalu. Boom. But unfortunately, Junmalu had been on guard for a long time. After all, he died under Long Yi's kicking skills back then. Although Long also seized the opportunity, in the end, he only rubbed against Junmalu a little, and with a muffled sound, he directly kicked half of his body to smithereens. If it is an ordinary person, he is already dead at this time, but the other party is an immortal body reincarnated from dirty soil. Your legs are heavier. After the body reunited, Junmalu looked at Long Yi with a serious expression. But as a reincarnated filth, there was not much fear in his eyes. It's a hassle. It was a waste of effort again, and the dragon also sighed secretly. The most troublesome thing right now is not the other four, nor the other's immortality. But they, who know a lot of information about Long Yi, are extremely familiar with his abilities. Therefore, whether it is the avatar technique, the Konoha whirlwind, or the slashing with a sword, even the sealing technique that the dragon has just practiced, the sound and ninja 5 people are on guard. After several consecutive attacks, none of them were effective, and Long wished he could throw a nuclear fireball directly at it. But Tomohisa and the others are still on the side, obviously impossible. Today, I will definitely take you to the Pure Land. Like a gangrene attached to the bone, the 4 of them cling to Long Yi, and while attacking fiercely, Junmaro said something confidently. In his opinion, having mastered Long Yi's ability, coupled with their immortality, Long Yi's technique is no longer a threat to them. Although for a while, they couldn't hurt Long Yi. But as long as the stalemate continues, they will definitely win in the end. After all, as a living person, the dragon is always tired, and the chakra is always exhausted. In fact, the fight went on for a while. Junmalu was keenly aware that Long Yi's breathing became significantly heavier. On top of that, dragons also use ninjutsu less and less often. No chakra yet. The corner of Junmalu's mouth smiled. From his point of view, Long Yi's ninjutsu is indeed powerful, but because of this, it is bound to consume chakra extremely. At this time, Long Yi, chakra should be running out. The 4 exchanged glances, and then stuck to Long Yi even more fiercely. Forced into desperation, Long also performed the avatar technique twice again. But after these 2 times, the dragon only used physical art to entangle, and even did not use the sword to cut. The 4 exchanged glances again, and the time has come. Spider web bound. The first is Gatong Maru. With a loud shout, he opened a huge spider web and covered it directly to Long Yi. Long was also prepared and jumped to the side to dodge. Tulu returns. At this moment, Jirofang's attack followed. A large stone slab was broken, and countless rubble was shot at the dragon. Long also frowned and could only dodge again. But because he was too hasty, his figure swayed a little, obviously his center of gravity was unstable. This is the time. Seizing the time, Junmalu shouted loudly, one after the other, and attacked Long Yi at the same time. 051 Who can be his opponent? Puff. Although Ryuya had dodged a lot of punches, but in the end he couldn't dodge Junmaru's attack. With a muffled sound, his chest was pierced by Junmalu's bone blade. Ha. After seeing the success, Kitamaru let out an excited roar, and rushed towards Ryuya with Jirofang. I also want to taste the pleasure of punching through Longya's body. Dragon 2. Seeing this scene, Tomohisa, Coriander, and Konohamaru all changed their faces. After an exclamation, he ignored Long Yi's explanation and rushed forward. I said, I will take you to the Pure Land. Feeling clearly that the bone blade pierced the heart of Long Yi, Junmalu took a deep breath, and his heart was full of joy. Really? At this moment, Long Yi, who should have been killed, suddenly raised his head, and a small smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Not good. Junmalu's face changed drastically in an instant, and then he was about to withdraw to avoid Toad Bomb. But unfortunately, it was already too late, and the dragon shouted loudly, squirting a lot of toad oil from his mouth. Whoa! Whether it was Junmaro and Zojinyujin in front of him, or Kitamaru and Jirofang who had just rushed up, they were all splashed with his toad oil in an instant. What the hell is this? Kitamaru wanted to shake off the oil, but he soon discovered that the oil was extremely viscous. Not only could he not shake it off, but instead, it stuck him firmly to the ground. Damn! Can't help but Gatong Maru. Even the powerful Jirofang who can split is completely unable to break free. Click, click. Only Jun Malu quickly retreated a layer of exoskeleton, like a golden cicada shedding its shell, and then jumped out. After a few more vertical jumps, he also opened a certain distance from the dragon. As expected of a corpse vein. For Jun Malu's escape, Long also expected it. His target was originally just Kitamaru and the three of them. He pressed the wound on his chest with his hand, although it was a little painful, but with the strong resilience of the heart of the tailed beast, it was no longer a serious problem. It seems that your intelligence work is not enough. Looking at Jun Malu, who was full of vigilance, Long also smiled and said something. The sound and forbearance of the 5 people reincarnated in the dirty earth, plus a lot of information about Long Yi, is really difficult to deal with, and Long Yi can't wait to throw a nuclear fireball directly. Looking through the list of skills, there is no skill that is understood by Yin Nin, except for the fireball. It should only be the toad oil bomb. Although this ninjutsu was mastered earlier than Konoha Whirlwind, but because of the need to store toad oil in advance, except for using it against Xiaonan once, it has never been revealed to outsiders. And Orochimaru, a traitor of Akatsuki's organization, is of course impossible to get information from Xiaonan. Therefore, the dragon also deliberately pretended that the chakra was exhausted, creating such an opportunity for Junmalu to kill him. The purpose is to reduce their vigilance and facilitate fuel injection. In fact, Longya, who has the heart of a tailed beast, has an extremely large amount of chakra, and the powerful ninjutsu he uses is actually low-level ninjutsu, and it does not consume much chakra at all. Sure enough, this move worked, and the toad oil that had been strengthened by the system was extremely viscous, and instantly bound the 3 of Kitamaru. For them who were reincarnated from the dirt, this move was much more effective than the powerful 10,000-ton whirlwind and slashing. It's your turn. In this way, 4 of the 5 members of Yinin have been abolished, and only Junmalu is left. Long also drank lightly, and rushed forward with a dodge. Master Orochimaru, I will never lose again. In the face of the menacing Long Yi, Junmalu raised his head and roared, and stretched out countless bone blades all over his body, and directly greeted him. Excellent. I knew it. At this time, Tomohisa and the others, who had not had time to rush up, couldn't help but feel excited when they saw that the dragon was fine. He's a dragon. Looking at Ryuya who was beating Junmalu Yidong violently, Konoha Maru stood there in a daze, and couldn't help but think of the second half of Tomohisa's words just now. He is a dragon, who can be his opponent? Boom. Soon, Long also moved several times in succession, seized the neutral position, and with a muffled sound, kicked Junmalu to pieces with one kick. Ha ha, you can't kill me, you can't kill me. But then, Junmalu's body gathered again, and he raised his head and laughed smugly. No matter how powerful you are, in the face of the immortality that Lord Orochimaru gave me, you can still do. You must have lost your mind. Long Yi's face was stern, and his hands quickly formed seals. Si, Hai, Wei, Mao, Shu, Zi, Yu, Wu, Si. This is. Seeing Long Yi's seal, Junmalu's face changed drastically, revealing a hint of panic. But at this time, his body had not fully recovered, and he could not escape at all. Seal. After the seal was completed, the dragon also shouted loudly, and the yin and yang of his hands turned into 4 images, and the 4 images were sealed. Snapped. Hum. As Long Yi put his hands on Junmalu's body, countless black lines poured out from his palms, instantly covering Junmalu's body, like a black cocoon, completely wrapping Junmalu. Orochimaru big. In the panic, Junmalu let out a frantic roar. But unfortunately, before he finished speaking, his whole body was turned into a clay sculpture. This is. Seeing this scene, the 3 of Kitamaru, who were bound by toad oil, had expressions of horror on their faces. At the same time, he couldn't help but struggle harder. But the harder they tried, the more toad oil stuck, and the more immobile they became. Don't. Seeing Long Yi walking towards them, they suddenly heard a new piece of information from the pharmacist's pocket. Double Ryuya, in the Chunin exam is now the Seal Ninja Takagi Ryuya. Seal. 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 Immediately afterwards, Long also cast the 4-image seal one after another, sealing the 3 people who were stuck on Kitamaru, as well as Tayuya, who was still in his illusion, one after another. Win. Excellent. The sound of the 5 people has been sealed by the dragon. Tomohisa and the others couldn't help cheering excitedly. How did these people deal with it? Happily, he ran to Longya's side, kicked Junmalu, who was sealed on the ground, and Tomohisa asked. If you leave it like this, if it is found by Yin-Ren, it will be troublesome to unlock the seal. But if you bring back Konoha, the 5 corpses will be a little heavy. Just leave it here. Long also stretched his waist and said something lightly. My sealing technique, no one can unlock it. Hem. Hearing this, Tomohisa and Coriander nodded, full of confidence. Quote. Seeing this scene, Konohamaru couldn't help but lose his mind. Looking at Long Yi again, his eyes could not help but be filled with awe. Next. At this time, Long also suddenly had a serious expression and said in a deep voice. The mission continues. 052 There is still a team that has not come back. Battle plan change. Long also looked serious, looking at the 3 in front of him. Infiltrate instead. Yes. Including Konohamaru, the 3 of them responded directly without any objection. Whoosh, whoosh whoosh. Immediately afterwards, under the leadership of Long Yi, the 4 moved forward at the fastest speed and went straight to the border of the Land of Fire and the Land of Tien. What? At the same time, in Konoha Hokage's office, Tsunade suddenly stood up. I just got the news that the Asma team was attacked by Yinin and had to give up the mission and retreat back to Konoha. Then, as if a certain opening had been opened, the news that other teams had been intercepted came one after another. In less than half a day, news came from almost all of Konoha and Cheyenne teams. Obviously, this time the plan has been leaked ahead of time. Yinin village is just a small village, and it cannot be compared with Konoha and Sandian. Under normal circumstances, Orochimaru, who got the news, should retreat immediately, but he did not. Instead, he sent a large number of troops to directly cross the border to intercept various teams in the Country of Fire. Orochimaru's arrogance made Tsunade extremely angry. But what is even more unexpected is that the intercepted teams have all lost to retreat. In other words, a mere village of Yinin actually stopped the coalition forces of the 2 hidden villages. Orochimaru. Tsunade frowned. The reason for this was not that her subordinates were too weak, but that the enemy was too strong. According to the information, nearly half of the Yin-Nin people who participated in the interception this time have curse marks. Transforming into a monster through the curse mark, the strength is comparable to that of Joinin. As far as Tsunade knows, although the effect of the spell seal enhancement is terrifying, it is also too domineering for ordinary people to bear. How did Orochimaru mass-produce the cursed monsters in a short period of time? After thinking about it, I am afraid that some extreme means have been used, such as overdrafting life. In addition to the cursed monsters, there are also a large number of dead people reincarnated in the filth. Since he was selected by Orochimaru, he must have been a powerful ninja during his lifetime. At this time, coupled with the body of immortality, it cannot help but become more and more difficult. As a result, the various teams of the coalition army suffered setbacks one after another. In order to avoid the sacrifice of their companions, they had to give up their tasks and withdraw Konoha. Thank you for your hard work. The next morning, Tsunade came to the office, saw the returning captains, and sighed and said something. This time, Cheyenne and Konoha's face was completely wiped out. In addition to the Konoha ninja, there are also various squads of Cheyenne. After being blocked, they also returned to Konoha. On Sandian's side, Maki, who was in charge of this mission, said something with a stern face. The combination of Konoha and Seian this time can be described as inspiring the public. As a result, he was beaten back by Yin Ren before he even passed the borders of Tianjiguo. It is not difficult to predict that this matter will soon spread among countries. But by then, Konoha and Sandian will be completely reduced to laughingstock. Not only that, the failure of the ninja village as the country's military force has also disgraced the country of fire and the country of wind. The big names of the two countries will definitely be held accountable. Just come back. Tsunade also understood this, but the strength of the enemy was beyond their expectations, and there was no way to fail the mission. Fortunately, they did not sacrifice, and everyone has returned to Konoha safely. Lord Hokage. And at this moment, Mute, who was standing beside him and had been working in secret art, suddenly said something. There's another squad that hasn't come back. What? Tsunade's face changed instantly, and he hurriedly swept towards the crowd. Kakashi, Akai, Asuma, Hong, and Sandian's Joinin, then couldn't help frowning. It's a dragon. Yes. Silent nodded, and then said quite worriedly. The Long Yi team has not returned, and so far, no news has been returned. I'm afraid they've all been killed. Maki's face was solemn and he said something. As the person in charge of Sandian's side, Maki has the right to know about Konoha's personnel arrangements. When he learned of a new Jinin, he led 3 lower ninjas to form a team. Maki couldn't help snorting coldly, which idiot made such a stupid arrangement. There is no doubt that among the various Konoha squads, the Ryuya squad is the weakest. There is no news so far, and the possibility of being wiped out by Yin Nin is extremely high. After all, those cursed monsters and the deceased who were reincarnated in the dirt were not easy to deal with. There is another possibility. At this time, Tsunade spoke with a low tone. The Ryuya squad has defeated the enemy and is continuing its mission. It's impossible. Send the Ninja Eagle immediately. Without waiting for Makito to speak, Tsunade ordered directly. Yes. Take the command silently and execute it immediately. As a ninja, in addition to their own cultivation, they also use external forces. In addition to the commonly used ninja tools and various medicines, there are ninja beasts. For example, the ninja dogs domesticated by Kakashi and the Inuzuka family, and the ninja pigs and pigs of Tsunade. There is no shortage of animal taming experts in Konoha village, who have specially cultivated a group of ninja eagles. In addition to long-distance transmission of letters and information, it can also connect its vision through ninjutsu to achieve the purpose of searching. Ninja's speed was very fast, and after it was released, it immediately searched along the route of the Ryuya squad. Open. As Tsunade finished unprinting, he snorted lightly. The crystal ball on the table has been visually connected to Ninja Eagle, showing what Ninja Eagle saw. At this time, in the office, whether it was Tsunade or Maki, or the elite Junin of the two villages, they were all staring at the crystal ball nervously. What is that? About an hour later, Ninja Eagle passed through a jungle, and suddenly saw several humanoid objects deep in the jungle. Tsunade quickly performed ninjutsu and controlled the Ninja Eagle to fly close to investigate. People. When the distance got closer, it turned out to be 5 people. But they were bound by black stripes and turned into clay sculptures. And in the middle of all the stripes, there is a seal word. Seal. All the people present were Jonin, and they recognized at a glance that this was a kind of sealing technique. It looks like the seal of 4 signs. But can the seal of 4 signs be used like this? Sound forbearance. Although it was entangled with black threads, the other side's sound ninja guarding the forehead could be seen from the gap. It's the reincarnation of dirt. At this time, Tsunade confirmed. These are not ordinary Yin-Ren, they are all people reincarnated in the dirt. Could it be that? Maki's expression changed, and his eyes were full of disbelief. Not bad. Tsunade was shocked and said excitedly. The dragon sealed them too. Seal. Maki was stunned, then remembered that Takagi Ryu also sealed the name of the ninja. And this name came from their Seian village. Could it be that the dragon did not die, but defeated his opponent? Up until this point, Maki was still a little unbelievable. After all, his subordinates had already reported to him the difficulty of Yin-Ren. At this time, Ninja continued to fly along the route of the Long Yi squad. As they passed by, gradually, the expressions on the faces of everyone present became more and more horrified. I saw that along the way, there were Yin-Nin's corpses everywhere, as well as people who had been reincarnated from the filth that had been sealed. 053 Hope of the whole village. How is this possible? In Yin'an village, Orochimaru, who got the news, had a ferocious, viper-like pupil that was extraordinarily cold. Knowing that Konoha and Sandian are united to crusade Yin'an village, Orochimaru is not afraid, but full of excitement. In the past 2 years, his filthy reincarnation technique has become more and more sophisticated, so that while erasing the will of the reincarnated, he can act according to his orders without the need for him to manipulate. In addition, he has also developed a method that allows ordinary people to obtain the power of the spell. Although once the curse mark is planted, it can only live for 3 days. With these two methods, Orochimaru not only wants to protect the village of Yin Ninja, but also makes Konoha and Cheyenne completely disgraced. Originally everything had been planned, but Long Yi's strength made the situation gradually out of his control. At that time, it was also a dragon. First, he cut Gaara to make it out of control, and then cut off the 4 purple flames to rescue the 3 generations of Hokage, which made Orochimaru's carefully planned Konoha destruction plan to fall short. Knowing that Long Yi was also in this action, the excited Orochimaru prepared an extra gift for him, that is, the 5 people of Yin-Ren, who were reincarnated from the dirty earth. But it never occurred to me that the 5 Yin-Ren, who possessed the immortal body, were once again defeated by Long Yi and were completely sealed. In addition to being angry, Orochimaru will send out other teams that have returned from completing the mission one after another to intercept and kill Long Yi. So far, 7 teams have been dispatched, but all of them have been annihilated by the dragon. And now Long Yi is still rushing towards Yin'an village. Takagi Ryuya. In addition to being angry, Orochimaru suddenly sneered at the corner of his mouth and turned to the pharmacist's pocket next to him. Have the teams responsible for interception all returned? Yes, all have returned to the village. Let them all go out and kill Takagi Ryuya. Yes. Pocket pushed his glasses, then turned to leave. Found it. At the same time, in Konoha Hokage's office, through Ninja's perspective, Ryuya and the others finally appeared in the crystal ball. Everyone was shocked, and the Long Yi team did not sacrifice, and they defeated one strong enemy after another, and they are still continuing to implement the plan. Here is. At this time, everyone suddenly discovered that Long Yi and the others had already reached the border of the Fire Country and the Tien Country, which was also the place where Konoha and Sandian would join forces. Whoosh, whoosh whoosh. The next moment, under the leadership of Long Yi, the team did not stagnate in the slightest, and directly crossed the border and entered the country of Tien. Seeing this scene, everyone frowned. The Ryuya team is still executing orders, but the other teams have all withdrawn to Konoha. In other words, the current Ryuya team entered the enemy country alone. Don't he know? Long Yi's strength deeply shocked Maki. But it is too dangerous to enter the enemy country with only one team of them left. At the same time, I couldn't help but wonder if Long didn't know that the other teams had withdrawn. No, he knows. At this time, Tsunade opened his mouth with a solemn expression. Everyone thought about it for a while, and they figured it out in an instant. Yes, the dragon knows it too. From the corpses along the way, it can be seen that the Long Yi team suffered many interception attacks. Based on the opponent's strength, he should be able to calculate that it is difficult for other teams to resist and will choose to retreat. Moreover, after arriving at the predetermined location, the Long Yi team did not stop, waiting for other teams to come to meet, but directly broke into the country of Tien. It shows that they are clear in their hearts that there will be no other teams coming to meet. Too stupid. Thinking of this, Maki snorted angrily. Could it be that Long also wants to rely on their team, or more accurately, rely on his own strength? After all, the other three shaman can't help at all, so they want to destroy the sound of the village. One person is the enemy of the country. How is this possible? Now, I give orders in the name of Hokage. At this moment, Tsunade suddenly spoke with a very serious expression. All teams, set off immediately and go to support the Ryuya team. Yes. Kakashi, Akai, Asuma, Red, etc., all the Konoha captains, followed the order, and then flashed out of the office in an instant, calling the team to support. Lord Hokage. Marky next to him said extremely angrily. Although we are not reconciled, we have to admit the strength of our opponents. It is very irresponsible to send out the team that finally retreated completely. Okay. Tsunade gave a cold drink and interrupted Maki directly. The current Ryuya squad is our only hope. Even if we do whatever it takes, we must help him break into Yinan village. You. Maki-sama. At this time, Sandian's Jonin captains couldn't help but ask. What shall we do? Do I still need to say that? Maki said with a serious face and reprimanded. In this operation, Hokage is the supreme commander. Got it. Hearing this, Zongsha couldn't help showing a happy expression and said firmly. We will carry out Hokage-sama's orders. In fact, everyone was unwilling to be beaten by Yin Ren just like that. When I saw that the Long Yi team had intercepted one after another, they had already broken into the enemy country, and everyone's blood was boiling. As Naruto said, the current Ryuya squad is the only hope for all of them, so at all costs, help them reach the Sound Ninja village. Immediately afterwards, all the leaders of the Sand Ninja Junin also immediately left the office, reconvened their subordinates, and went to aid Ryuya. Hopefully he doesn't live up to the expectations of all of us. Looking at the Long Yi team that was still advancing in the crystal ball, Maki said lightly. After all, the face of the two big hidden villages, as well as the Kingdom of Fire and the Kingdom of Wind, depends entirely on the dragon. Tread, Tatata. At this time, the Long Yi team, which had entered the country of Tien, began to approach Yinan village quickly with the sound of hurried footsteps. Lonely went deep, and of course Long knew their current situation. But it was because of this that he had no chance of turning back. The growth of Orochimaru has exceeded his expectations. If you don't deal heavy damage now, with the growth speed of the Sound Ninja village, it will soon become a strong enemy. At that time, Konoha Destruction Project 2.0 will definitely be launched immediately. By then, Konoha may be really dangerous. Stop. Keeping forward, he has penetrated into the country of Tien, and the dragon also gave a light drink and suddenly stopped. It has not been intercepted for most of the day. Something is wrong. Long also frowned, and the radar ear power was fully turned on. 054 The Art of Multiple Shadows. This way. The dragon also gave a light drink and suddenly changed the direction of travel. The three did not hesitate and followed directly. Not only Tomohisa and Coriander, but after a series of battles along the way, even Konohamaru, who was originally hostile to dragons, is now bowing his head. Although he didn't want to believe it, Konohamaru had to admit that in terms of strength, dragon might indeed be above Naruto. Regarding Long Yi's words, it is like an imperial decree, but this is the 5th time he has changed direction. Did something happen, or what is going to happen? This way. Half an hour later, the dragon also gave a soft drink and changed direction again. Changing directions more and more frequently, Tomohisa and the three couldn't help but feel a little worried. Looks like it's being watched. At this time, Long Yi, who was running at the same time, listened to his movements with his radar ear, and he was sure in his heart. After entering the country of Tien, there was no interception for a long time, which caused Long Yi's vigilance. He solved several sound forbearance teams one after another, and the Orochimaru who suffered one after another couldn't save Grandpa like this gourd baby, one by one. Having not encountered any interception for such a long time, it is very likely that they are gathering people. Therefore, Long also immediately launched a reconnaissance with his radar ear, which was exactly as he expected. Including a large number of cursed monsters, as well as reincarnators from the dirty earth, there are nearly 100 of them. Even if the dragon is powerful, I am afraid that it is not an opponent. Most importantly, Tomohisa and the other three. If they are besieged by nearly 100 people, it will be difficult for the dragon to take care of them. Therefore, only to avoid its edge. Relying on the radar ear to control the enemy's movements, Long also approached Yinan village and avoided interception in time. But unfortunately, the other party obviously also has a reconnaissance ninja, and I don't know what secret technique they used, and they have locked the position of Long Yi. No matter how the dragon changes its course, the other party can know it and adjust accordingly. There is no way. After nearly a day of entanglement, the sun has already set, and although the dragon also tried his best to find a gap, there were too many Yin ninjas and finally closed the encirclement. Rest. With the arrangement of the opponent, it was too late to break through. Instead of doing this, it's better to stop and take it easy. In fact, after running like this, Tomohisa and the others were severely depleted of their stamina and chakra as genin. Wait, there will be a near-famous Baiyan Nin attack. While the three were resting, Long also explained. What you have to do is to avoid fighting with him as much as possible to protect yourself. Nearly 100. Hearing this number, the expressions of the three of them changed greatly. But then he didn't say much, he nodded heavily, and recovered his stamina as quickly as possible. Although the enemy is very powerful, they believe that the dragon will definitely protect them too. 10 minutes. Long also calculated in his heart that 10 minutes should be enough. As long as they can hold on for 10 minutes, it's safe. The question now is how to hold on for 10 minutes. Whoosh whoosh. After a while, as Long Yi said, a large number of Yin Nin suddenly appeared around them, surrounding them. Quote. Tonight is the full moon. With the moonlight, I can basically see each other's face clearly. Seeing the cursed monsters one by one, as well as the reincarnators from the filth, including the first and second generations, Tomohisa and the three swallowed their saliva, unable to restrain their nervousness. Hey! Finally stopped, and with a grin, these Yin Ren will rush up. The technique of multiple shadows. At this moment, the dragon suddenly shouted loudly. Pong, 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 pong. The next moment, a large number of avatars, thousands of people, appeared in an instant. This is. Seeing this scene, Yin Ren, who was about to rush up, couldn't help but pause. It's just a shadow clone. Go. But then, they came back to their senses and continued to rush up. Even if the shadow clone is an entity, no matter how many there are, the total amount of chakra remains the same. In the final analysis, it's just a person's chakra, what's there to be afraid of? You hide in these clones and don't make contact with the enemy. Long also explained to Tomohisa and the others, and then mixed into the clone. It's not a shadow clone. It's just a normal one. A Tone ninja, easily pierced a clone, was slightly startled, and then shouted to his companions excitedly. Noba whirlwind. But at this moment, a clone beside him suddenly kicked. Boom. The next moment, before the name Yin Ren could finish his words, he was kicked out. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. Seeing this scene, the other Yin Ren was startled immediately. In fact, without the sound of the ninja body reminding them, they have already seen that these are ordinary clones without entities, not shadow clones at all. The dragon shouted like that just now, but it was just a cover for bluffing. But the crux of the problem now is that among these clones, Long Yi's body is hidden, which is a huge threat. Find out his body. There are many perceptive ninjas among the sound ninjas, and they quickly began to investigate. How is this possible? But soon, they discovered that these clones were all the same as the real one. Regardless of the breath or the chakra situation, there is no flaw at all. Although they are not entities, these clones can be called perfect clones. Draw the sword. At this time, Long Yi didn't stop, and with a loud shout, he killed another Yin-Ren again. Damn! Destroy all these clones. If they can't be found, they will all be destroyed. The sound ninjas swarmed up. Facing these clones, it was an indiscriminate attack. Pong, pong, pong. These clones have no entity. As long as they attack a little, they will dissipate immediately. That's right. Long was also mixed in with the clones, but the corner of his mouth smiled. He didn't expect these clones to defend against the enemy, he just used these clones as a cover for the Tomohisa 3. Now, all the attention of Yin-Ren is attracted by these clones, and Tomohisa and the others are temporarily safe. Noba Whirlwind. Without any worries, the dragon also mixed in with the clones and began to attack the enemy unscrupulously. Clone technique. At the same time, the clone technique was performed again and again to maintain the number of clones at more than 500 or 600. The tree world is coming. This persisted for a few minutes, and suddenly a violent drink was heard. Saplings emerged from the ground one by one, and then quickly grew into giant trees in the sky. In the blink of an eye, the original open space has been filled with trees. In the collision of these trees, Long Yi's clone was eliminated almost instantly. Found it. It's him. After losing cover, the Ryuya squad was instantly exposed to the enemy. Yin-Ren was excited for a while, shouted and rushed up. Rachel. Lianhua. At this moment, two figures suddenly appeared, and with two loud shouts, they instantly killed two Yin-Ren. It's finally here. Long also smiled, and reinforcements came. 055. Go, Dragon 2. It's Kakashi-sensei. And Teacher Akai. Facing nearly 100 ferocious Yin ninjas, Tomohisa and the three of them turned pale with fright. When I saw the figure that appeared suddenly, I was startled at first, and then my face was overjoyed. Konoha's copy ninjas and blue beasts are already reassuring. It's Konoha ninja. On the other hand, Tonin was also taken aback. Only two. But then, when he saw that there were only Kakashi and Akai, he sneered again, showing his hideous face again. There are nearly 100 of them, and only two of them are courting death. Kill them. With a loud shout, Yin-Ren rushed up again, and wanted to kill Ryuya and the others, together with Kakashi and Akai. Fire escape. Ashes are baked. Boom. At this moment, a cloud of smoke came, and with a loud shout, it exploded in an instant, blasting the 7 or 8, and the famous sound into the air. Tree-bound kill. 64 palms of gossip. Shadow imitation succeeds. Then, with a loud shout, one figure appeared one after another. Quote. Everyone is here. Konoha ninja, and Sand ninja, seeing the sudden appearance of a large number of reinforcements, the three of Tomohisa 3 were excited again, and they were finally saved. Really timely. Long's mouth smiled lightly, and he could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. According to previous detections, it would take 10 minutes for reinforcements to arrive. But it's only been 5 or 6 minutes now, and obviously, the reinforcements have come desperately after finding out that they are in danger. Damn. Damn. Just after cleaning up those annoying clones, and before I could attack the dragon, so many reinforcements suddenly appeared. Who reacted was full of anger. Kill Takagi Ryuya. Then, with a roar, he rushed straight to Long Yi. They were ordered to kill the dragon desperately. Go. The previous account is about to settle with you. The Allied army's order was to protect Long Yi, and he did not hesitate to meet him. The next moment, nearly 200 people, scuffled together. In terms of numbers, there is not much difference between the two sides. But in terms of overall strength, Tonin still surpasses the coalition. After all, if it weren't for this, the previous squads didn't need to retreat. There is no problem with each team taking care of each other, cooperating, and temporarily containing the enemy. Rachel. After beheading a sound ninja again, Kakashi turned around and said with a smile. Leave it to us here. Noba whirlwind. Akai kicked a sound, and Long also gave a thumbs up. Go boy, go and complete your mission. Go, Dragon 2. Go, Takagi Ryuya. At this time, the people of the coalition army, while fighting with the sound of ninja, shouted at the dragon one after another. Everyone. Long also looked at the crowd and nodded slightly. Take care. Whoosh. The next moment, the figure disappeared directly, and through the substitute technique, he flashed out of the battlefield in an instant, and with everyone's expectations, went straight to the Sound Ninja village. Long Yi. Looking at the place where the dragon also disappeared, Tomohisa, Coriander, and Konohamaru couldn't help being a little absent-minded, and then suddenly smiled. 3 people 3 back-to-back, relying on each other, joined the battle. Strengths are too far apart. If they continue to be together, they will only drag Long Yi's hind legs. However, even if they are stubborn, they have things they can do. Example, trying their best and even their lives to stop Yin Nin here. What? Konoha and Sandian arrived, Yin Ren was dragged, and Long also rushed out of the siege, and was rapidly approaching Yin Ren village. Orochimaru, who got the news, couldn't help but be surprised, and his face was instantly gloomy. But then, the corner of his mouth sneered again. Tsunade, I didn't expect you to value this child so much, to be able to do this. Master Orochimaru, what shall we do next? Mouthen asked. In order to deal with this war, we have mobilized some personnel from the north and south strongholds, and some have not been put into the battlefield. On the other hand, Sasuke can also fight at any time. No need. Orochimaru waved his hand and said lightly. Let him come. You mean? I'm going to kill him with my own hands. Orochimaru's pupils shrank suddenly, and his face became more and more sinister. In order to let Ryuya break out of the encirclement, Tsunade actually let the other teams that had finally evacuated return to the battlefield again. Seeing that she has high hopes for Long Yi, and even expects him to destroy Yinin village with one person. Only one person wants to destroy Yinin village. 4. Orochimaru, this is simply an insult. But that's what makes things more interesting. Tsunade also had high hopes for Long. Orochimaru killed him with his own hands, shattering Tsunade's hope cruelly. At the same time, I couldn't help wondering that there was no interception on the way. As a traveler, Long also knows that the strength of Orochimaru is not only the current ones. What about him? Things are abnormal, but the dragon has also used the radar ear to detect, and there is really no enemy ambush. That being the case, I simply ignored it and continued on my way with all my strength. In less than an hour, the dragon also passed through a forest. Standing on the top of the tree and looking forward, I saw that there was a small village in the open space, which was Yinin village. At this time, it was already late at night, and the dark clouds covered the Yinin village, which had no lights at all, and was completely shrouded in darkness. In this case, Yinin village couldn't be unprepared, and the dragon didn't dare to approach it rashly, so it was better to use the radar ear to detect it first. It's finally here. At the same time, in Konoha Hokage's office, Tsunade and Maki were staring nervously at the crystal ball. The dragon has finally reached the Yinin village, but at the same time, the dragon has also reached the deepest danger. The Yinin village at this time is like a huge trap in the darkness, and like a giant beast with a bloody mouth. As long as the dragon takes a half step, he will be torn apart. Even if they are far apart, Tsunade and Maki can't help but worry about the dragon. Did you escape? At this time, Long Yi had already inspected the entire village. To his surprise, there were actually not many people in the village. But after thinking about it again, Yinin village is not very large, and not all of Orochimaru's subordinates are in the village. In order to intercept the allied forces of Konoha and Sandian, most of the people in the village were sent out. Just as Long was thinking about it, his face suddenly changed greatly. The next moment, along with the sharp wind, a little cold light shot out from the center of the village, heading straight for the dragon. Sword. As the next moment approached, the dragon also suddenly saw that it was not a hidden weapon, but a sharp sword that stretched hundreds of meters. Philo reminds you, 3 things to read and collect. 056. Poke the snake. Kusanagi sword is the sword of the sky. Orochimaru's unique move, the Kusanagi sword that can be long or short from the mouth, in addition to sharp, its huge impact is enough to fly the out-of-control-tailed beast Naruto. Did you do it yourself? After evading the avatar technique, he hid in the dense bushes, looking at the direction where the Kusanagi sword stretched out. Ryuya's face was serious. In this way, one of the few voices in the village just now was Orochimaru himself. Snake step. Just when Long Yi was thinking about it, there was a sudden shout from the village, and it was Orochimaru. Immediately afterwards, I saw 2 giant snakes with a length of 100 meters, flying out of the village and falling into the woods. Boom, boom. Under the unbridled impact of these 2 giant snakes, the tree that several people hugged broke down at the waist. The dense forests that used to be in the blink of an eye turned into a mess. Whoosh. The dragon hiding in the bushes, in order to avoid being affected, can only move to avoid it again. Hee hee. And at this moment, a chilling laughter suddenly sounded from behind. Long Yi rolled his eyes, and saw a pair of snake-like pupils. It was Orochimaru. The latent shadow and many snake hands. The moment he found Ryuya, Orochimaru's attack had arrived. Dozens of ferocious poisonous snakes sprang from the cuffs of Orochimaru, intimidating, restraining, blocking, biting, each performing their duties, cooperating with each other, and rushing towards the dragon together. Cut. Facing this vicious move, Long also had a serious expression. His right hand had already held the hilt of the knife, and he instantly drew the knife and slashed. Not a straight slash, but a circle, and the light of the sword was like a full moon, spreading all around. Cut all the poisonous snakes that came up into 2 halves. But then, the sound of breaking the air sounded, and the Kusanagi sword in Orochimaru's mouth stabbed Ryuya again. Whoosh. The dragon was also prepared for a long time, and he used the avatar technique to directly move to avoid it. The next moment, the dragon also appeared again, standing in the open space more than 10 meters away from Orochimaru. Looking at Orochimaru, who was taking back the Kusanagi sword and looking at him with a grim expression, Long couldn't help frowning secretly. The surrounding of Orochimaru is very clean, without any 11 kilograms objects. Directly to his side through the substitute technique and launch a surprise attack. I don't know if this is a coincidence, or Orochimaru did it on purpose. Whoosh whoosh. In short, try it and you'll know. Long also raised his hand and shot a few kunai at Orochimaru. Hey hey. Orochimaru sneered twice and flashed sideways. Whoosh. The next moment, while Kuu flew over Orochimaru, the dragon also moved directly to Orochimaru's side through the substitute technique. Noba whirlwind. Then without any hesitation, it was kicked and shouted, but unfortunately, Orochimaru retreated abruptly, dodging the kick. Under such a surprise, even if it is fast, it is difficult to dodge. Unless it has been anticipated before. Immediately afterwards, Orochimaru stepped back a dozen meters, and while standing still, he swept away his sleeves and swept away all the surrounding stones and wood, making the surrounding area a clean open space. I was seen through. In Hokage's office, Tsunade and Maki, who saw this scene, frowned. Obviously, Orochimaru has mastered detailed information on Long Yi's abilities. Long Yi's displacement is actually a substitute technique. Since it is a substitute technique, there must be a replacement object. In this way, as long as you pay attention in advance, those objects that can be replaced can predict the location of Ryuya's flash and dodge it. In fact, Orochimaru has been collecting his information since Ryuya destroyed the Konoha destruction plan. Even if there are some gaps in this operation, several waves of people have been sent to intercept them, and the gaps have been checked and filled in several battles. Multiple shadow clone technique. Long also had a serious expression, and then gave a light drink, and separated thousands of clones. Long Yi's attack mainly relies on physical techniques and requires close-up. Since the substitute technique is seen through, create harassment and look for opportunities to move. Array of 10,000 snakes. Facing the avatar who stepped forward, Orochimaru's face was as usual, and he spit out countless small snakes directly from his mouth. Puffy. The group of snakes is like a wave, instantly drowning Long Yi's clone. And these, ordinary clones, under the attack of the little snake, directly vanished one by one. Immediately afterwards, the group of snakes rushed towards Long Yi, who had exposed his body, trying to engulf him directly. Cut. Facing the ferocious group of snakes, Long also had a serious face, and slashed directly with a sword light. Under the sharp sword energy, the chopped snake flew up, and at the same time, a path was directly opened up among the snakes. Tatata. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Long also hurriedly broke out. Cut. While protruding the snake formation, it was another knife, directly slashing at Orochimaru. Hey hey. Orochimaru sneered at the corner of his mouth. He had long understood about Long Yi's slashing. Although the sword slash is quick, it will take a certain amount of time for the sword energy to travel at a long distance. Before that, as long as you pay attention to the timing when the dragon also holds the handle of the knife, you can avoid it. Swish swish. Turn sideways to easily dodge this slash, and when Orochimaru was complacent, he suddenly caught a glimpse of it out of the corner of his eye. Behind the sword light, there are actually 4 kunai. The slash just now is just a cover, and the real purpose of the dragon is to shoot the kunai. Orochimaru's expression changed in an instant, and he quickly prepared to defend the dragon according to the position of the kunai. Displacement attack. But the next moment, what surprised Orochimaru was that the kunai flew past him, and the dragon did not appear, and he did not use the stand-in technique. Together, and then the running track changes. This is... Orochimaru was startled, and suddenly there was a feeling in his heart, a bad premonition. Whoosh! At this moment, the dragon also shifted and appeared a few meters behind Orochimaru. A few meters apart, with Long Yi's art, it shouldn't be easy to attack. Assault. When Orochimaru was wondering, Long Yi's figure disappeared again. Orochimaru was startled again. There were obviously no objects around him that could be moved. PFF'd. But at the next moment, Long also rushed behind Orochimaru, and then there was a muffled sound. Orochimaru's body was instantly stiff, feeling tingling, hot, and his heart was full of anger. At the same time, he just remembered that besides Substitute and Seal Ninja, Long Yi was the earliest and even forgotten name of the Great Demon King. At this time, the entire Hokage office was full of embarrassment when they saw this scene. In such a serious battle, to use such a method is it's really inappropriate. In particular, couldn't help but recall the pain of the year, and when the dragon returned, he must take care of him. Orochimaru, sir. Somewhere outside Yinan village, he has also been watching this battle. When he saw Orochimaru, whom he worshipped like a god, he was actually stunned for a moment. Noba whirlwind. At this moment, the dragon who succeeded also shouted violently and kicked Orochimaru. Please download Feifei to read the underlined version of the novel. 057. Let Yin Ren feel the pain. By drawing the sword and cutting the sword energy as cover, shooting the kunai, and then using the shuriken technique. Change the path of suffering. In the end, the substitute technique, the second stage displacement of the 1,000-year kill, finally got close to Orochimaru. Bang! The next moment, with a muffled sound, Orochimaru, who had no time to respond, was directly kicked away by Long Yi. Boom! Orochimaru flew thousands of meters and hit a hill. With a loud roar, the mountain fell apart instantly. Quote. Seeing this scene, Tsunade, Maki and the others, who were still full of embarrassment just now, all changed their expressions, and their eyes were full of horror. They knew that Long Yi's legs were very heavy, but they never imagined that it would be so heavy. One kick, the landslide and the ground split. That's great. Immediately after returning to God, everyone was excited again. Under such a kick, it is impossible for anyone to be alive. This stinky boy. Immediately afterwards, Tsunade couldn't help shaking his head and smiling bitterly. Compared with Long Yi's foot, his strange strength was a pain in the sky. It was just pediatrics. If you want to ravage the dragon again in the future, I am afraid you have to think about it carefully, at least find a plausible excuse. Master Orochimaru. At the same time, when he saw Orochimaru's pocket being kicked away, his face changed greatly, and he rushed over. Boom, boom. Just when everyone thought that Orochimaru would definitely die, a broken body slowly wriggled out of the broken rocks. How is this possible? This body is Orochimaru. Tsunade and the others are horrified. The foot of the landslide, how can Orochimaru still be alive? Vomit. Immediately, I saw Orochimaru's mouth widened, covered with mucus, a perfectly intact the undamaged Orochimaru drilled out from it. What a heavy kick. Orochimaru moved the new body, glanced at the completely tattered old body on the ground, couldn't help sneering at the corner of his mouth, and suddenly rushed towards Long Yi like crazy. Substitute. As if it had been expected long ago, Long also sighed helplessly. If it is said that in this world, who is the most difficult to kill, except Kagaya, who is truly immortal, I am afraid it is Orochimaru. With a forbidden technique, he is far more difficult to deal with than Zhao, Du and Feijuan. Orochimaru avatar technique, that is, using the external body as a surrogate, after being attacked, the main body is then transferred from the mouth. It can be said that it is the most perfect and unsolved substitute technique. It's troublesome. Looking at Orochimaru rushing up, Long Yi frowned again. A tactic is difficult to work twice, but even if you can give Orochimaru a heavy blow, who knows how many substitutes he has to take a step back. Even if Orochimaru is killed, he can still be resurrected from the curse mark. This is simply a rotten snake that can't be beaten to death. If you entangle with such a big snake pill, you will definitely get punished. But at this time, Orochimaru had already rushed up, and the dragon could only temporarily meet him. Quote. In Hokage's office, looking at the crystal ball, Ryuya, Tsunade and the others all frowned. Although I don't want to admit it, it's true. Killing Orochimaru is simply an impossible task. And at this time, after successfully helping Long Yi break out of the siege, the coalition forces have retreated again in order to prevent casualties. A large number of sound ninjas are quickly returning to the sound ninja village. If the entanglement continues, the dragon will also be surrounded again by the arrival of the Yinin army. Coupled with the difficult Orochimaru, I am afraid it is really dangerous. Cancel the mission. At this time, Maki opened his mouth and said something. The current situation, if you don't want the dragon to sacrifice, you can only give up the mission. Damn. He tried his best to get to this point with great difficulty, but in the end he had to give up, and Tsunade was full of anger. But she also knew that there was simply no other option. Immediately afterwards, Tsunade was going to send a message to Ryuya who was fighting through ninja. Whoosh. And at this moment, the dragon suddenly shifted, pulling away from Orochimaru. What is he going to do? Tsunade, who was about to cast the spell, couldn't help but stop, and suddenly left the battle. Could it be that the dragon already knew the situation and wanted to give up the mission voluntarily? Do you want to run? Looking at Long Yi, Orochimaru's eyes were cold. Long Yi destroys his plans one after another, and he has long hated Long Yi. The most important thing is that Long Yi's growth rate is too fast. In order to avoid future troubles, he must kill Long Yi this time. Orochimaru. But Long also didn't seem to have any intention of running away, looking at Orochimaru, he suddenly smiled and asked, "Have you ever felt pain?" Quote. Hearing this, Orochimaru looked at Long Yi's eyes, and instantly became extremely cold. Of course he felt the pain. His parents, partners, and Orochimaru had watched them die one by one. It was this pain, and knowing the fragility of life, that he would go on the wrong path of studying immortality. Long Yi suddenly asked him this, and inadvertently opened the deepest scar in his heart. Takagi Ryuya. The angry Orochimaru made the sound of glass rubbing in his mouth, and then he rushed up again and completely killed the dragon. Noba Whirlwind. And at this moment, Long also suddenly used his kicking technique again. But with the distance between him and Orochimaru, it is impossible to work. Moreover, Long Yi's kick was not aimed at Orochimaru, but at the sky. Swish swish. The sound of breaking through the air sounded, and a dozen kunai were kicked directly into the sky by the dragon. This is. Everyone, whether it was Tsunade who observed through the crystal device, or the scene, Orochimaru, Do, all had doubts on their faces. What did the dragon have to do? Swish swish. Then, the dragon also used the avatar technique one after another, constantly flashing into the air by replacing kunai. Blink of an eye, the dragon also stopped until it was tens of thousands of meters in the sky. At this time, a gust of wind blew, and the dark clouds dispersed. Ryuya, who flashed high into the sky, revealed a full moon behind him. Orochimaru. Just when everyone was wondering, Long also laughed wildly and let out a roar. Ha ha, feel the pain. Fire escape. The art of fireball. Fireball. Everyone's faces were full of doubts again. In this case, what is the use of a flamboyant fireball? Boom, boom, this is. But the next moment, amid a loud roar, when they saw the huge fireball that was ejected from Long Yi's mouth, its volume rapidly expanded, and instantly reached a kilometer in diameter. Everyone was stunned. What is that? At this time, the group of Yin Nin, who were about to arrive at the village, suddenly heard a loud noise, followed the sound subconsciously, and then instantly widened their eyes. I saw that under the full moon, a huge fireball, like a red sun, was wrapped in thunder and fell towards Yin'an village. Boom! The next moment, as the fireball fell to the ground, with the loud roar, the earth shook violently, and the raging and spreading firelight instantly illuminated the night as bright as day. Philo reminds you. 3 things to read. 058. I'm with you. The skill of the fireball is strengthened by +86. The diameter of the fireball is 1 kilometer, and the flame and impact generated after the explosion can cover a radius of 1 kilometer. As a small ninja village, Sound Ninja Village covers a total area of less than 2 kilometers. When the fireball fell to the ground and exploded, the resulting flames and strong winds engulfed the entire village in an instant. Not only that, due to the large area, Orochimaru and Do, who were outside the village, were also swallowed up by the flames. What is that? At this moment, all the people in the whole country of Tien had witnessed this huge fireball, and they couldn't help falling into a huge panic. And when the fireball exploded, Yin'an village had completely disappeared from the surface, leaving only a huge deep pit with a diameter of several kilometers. And in the extension of the giant crater, there are black burning marks several kilometers long. Did you succeed? In Hokage's office, it wasn't until a long time before everyone came back to their senses. Even if Orochimaru's vitality is tenacious, it should have been burned to ashes by this fireball. According to Ninja's observation, the reincarnation of the dirty earth has been lifted. Tsunade looked serious and said something. Great. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but be excited. Since the reincarnation of the dirty earth has been lifted, it means that the caster has died. I'm afraid the fact is just the opposite. But at this moment, Tsunade spoke again, and his expression became more and more solemn. As Hokage, and the Thousand Hands clan, she understands the reincarnation of the dirty earth far better than others. Once this ninjutsu is used, it will not be released with the death of the caster. At this time, the reincarnation of the dirty earth is lifted. It must be the initiative of Orochimaru, which just shows that Orochimaru is not dead. How could this be? After listening to Tsunade's explanation, everyone was startled, and their brows could not help frowning. No, Orochimaru is dead. At this moment, Marky suddenly spoke, with a very serious expression. We must announce to the outside world that Orochimaru's death. Not bad. Immediately afterwards, the two elder advisors of Konoha also said with certainty. Orochimaru has died under the joint crusade of Konoha and Sandian. This time, Konoha and Sandian are united, and they are so mobilized. If they don't make any achievements, they will definitely become the laughingstock of the entire ninja world. Therefore, the two major countries that are ridiculed will also hold the village responsible. In fact, if the dragon hadn't entered alone, this ending would have been doomed. Sake of face, they must declare to the outside world that they have killed Orochimaru and eradicated Yinin village. Let's put aside the life and death of Orochimaru. From today, Yinin village has become history. This is politics, and Tsunade doesn't want to interfere too much. Then pick up the pen and cross out the Yinin village on the map. One fireball from Long Yi completely wiped out Yinin village. Is that really the noble fireball just now? At this time, I couldn't help but think of the terrifying fireball just now. Maki's face was particularly dignified, and he pondered. I suggest that this technique be listed as the technique of flaming fireballs, a forbidden technique. Tsunade smiled and asked, after all, this is only a super ninjutsu widely used by fire ninjas. There's something wrong with it. Marky thought for a while, then added. Only for Takagi Ryuya. Tsunade pondered a little, and nodded involuntarily. For Sand Ninja, this technique of Long Yi is too terrifying, and because of fear, he proposes to list it as a forbidden technique. As for Konoha, although there is no need to worry, the dragon also threw this technique to Konoha. But it also has to be considered, its huge range of destructiveness, the threat to companions and the environment. From this point of view, it is not too much to list Long Yi's flamboyant fireball technique as a forbidden technique. Where is the dragon now? Speaking of which, someone couldn't help but ask again. Just now, at the moment when the fireball exploded, due to underestimating its power range, Ninja couldn't dodge in time, and was already killed by the impact. Without the Ninja Eagle, the peeping ninjutsu was interrupted, and the crystal ball had no vision at that time. Although immediately after, Tsunade replaced him with another ninja hawk who had been monitoring the sound of ninja. But when it flew over the explosion site, there was no trace of Long Yi. In fact, except Long Yi, such as Orochimaru and Do, there is no trace of any person or creature on the ground. He should be back soon. Tsunade smiled and said, after all, the mission has been completed. Hearing this, everyone was in high spirits and full of expectations for Long Yi's return. After all, if there is no dragon this time, Konoha and Sandian will be completely reduced to laughingstock. And Ryuya, who saved the figurines of the two villages, is both a hero and their hero. Just when Konoha and Sandian were thinking about how to welcome the hero Ryuya come out, Long Yi, who was on his way back, suddenly stopped, turned to face a bush, and said something lightly. Wow! Then, with a soft sound, a woman came out of the bushes. After leaving Yinin village, Long also quickly found out that someone was following him. At first I thought it was the enemy, but later found out that the other party just followed, as if there was no intention to attack. But after all, the origin is unknown, so he can't just bring a tail back to the village, and the dragon simply forced the other party to show up. Wait, the dragon also made his move, just a word, and he came out obediently, but honestly, well, why is she, who was about to ask questions, was startled again when he saw the woman's appearance. The red hair and pupils, as well as the iconic glasses, are exactly Xianglin. In the Chunin exams, Long also deliberately rushed before Sasuke to save her in order to plant the seeds of love for Xianglin. Later, Xianglin was eliminated, and he returned to the grass ninja village with his companions, and there was no news. But according to the original plot, she should have fallen into the hands of Orochimaru, and because of her excellent perception ability, she has become the person in charge of its southern stronghold. From the timeline, the Xianglin at this time should be in the southern stronghold. How did it arrive at the headquarters of Yunnan village? But speaking of it, the development of things today has long been separated from the original work, so there is no clear timeline. It's really you, Takagi Ryuya. At this time, seeing Long Yi's fragrance, he couldn't help but feel excited. This war, she was recruited from the southern stronghold. But because of some things, time was delayed on the way. When she arrived, she just happened to see the ninja village. At the same time of being shocked, through his keen perception ability, he discovered Long Yi's chakra and chased after him. Since the Chunin exam that year, in the past 2 years, Long Yi's figure has continued to appear in her dreams. I finally see you again. Although the dragon has grown into a boy, his face has not changed much. After confirming that it was him, Shang Feng rushed up with a shout and hugged Long Yi. From today, I will follow you. To read the underlined version of the novel, please download Feifei. 059. Subdue the incense. Takagi, just accept me, I'm very capable. Seeing Takagi's indifferent face, for fear of being rejected, Xianglin began to sell herself vigorously. My perception ability is very strong, and I also have some medical ninja abilities. If you get hurt, just bite me and you can recover. Of course, Long also knew very well about the ability of Shang Phosphorus, and he also appreciated it very much. If it wasn't like that, why would he rush to save her in front of Sasuke during the Chunin exams and make her fall in love with him? Therefore, even if Xianglin doesn't say anything, Long will find a way to take her under his command. Is that so? But since Xiangrin worked so hard, Long also had to cooperate. Deliberately pouted slightly, a look that is not very satisfied. Of course it's not just that. Xiangrin was anxious for a while, as if she suddenly remembered, and then said quickly. Besides these, I also know an important piece of information. Intelligence. Yes. Seeing that Long was also slightly interested, Xiangrin nodded vigorously, and then asked a mysterious question. You know the tailed beast. Tailed beast. Long was also slightly startled, and couldn't help being a little surprised. Tail beast can be said to be one of the strongest forces in the world. Not many people really know the name. What was really surprising to Long was that Xiangrin actually had information about the tailed beast. The so-called tailed beast is a beast with great power. Thinking that Long didn't understand, Xiangrin seemed to be inspired, and then introduced it in detail. I have to say that Xiangrin really knows a lot. But unfortunately, it's just some basic information. Where are the 3 tails? Wait, after Xiangrin finished speaking, Long also interrupted her and asked a question directly. 3 tails, dragon also you. Xiangrin, who was still in high spirits just now, was stunned for a moment, looking at Long Yi in disbelief. How do you know? The information I said is about the 3 tails. 9-tailed beasts belong to the 5 hidden villages and the Taki Ninja village, and the 3 tails originally belonged to the Fog Hidden village. After the death of their human Zuli, they are in a wild state. In the original plot, Orochimaru sent someone to capture Sanwei for some purpose. At this time, when Xiangrin mentioned the tailed beast, it must be related to the 3 tails. And what Long also cares about now is the specific location of the 3 tails. Although he is a traveler, he only knows that the 3 tails are lurking in a certain lake. Based on this information alone, the world is so big, where to find it? Long and you seem to know much more than I thought. Xiangrin couldn't help but re-examine Long Yi, and then she looked like a nympho. As expected of the man I like. Help me find Sanwei, and I'll accept you as my subordinate. Leave this to me. Hearing this, Shangrin was immediately refreshed, and his face was full of joy. Immediately afterwards, the original plan was to return to Konoha. That is to divert. Under the guidance of Kanon, I went to look for Isofukmyo. Orochimaru didn't know where to know about the three tails, and he seemed to have the power to control the three tails, so he was ready to send someone to capture it. As a tailed beast, Sanwei is too powerful. In order to ensure the success of the operation, Orochimaru has recruited many experts from various strongholds, including the southern stronghold that Xianglin is responsible for. It is because of this that Shangrin obtained information on the location of the three tails. Since the preparations are so complete, why didn't Orochimaru succeed? Because they didn't go at all. Just when Orochimaru gathered Chi's troops, he suddenly got news that Konoha and Sandian were about to attack. Therefore, the three-tailed capture plan was immediately cancelled, and instead, the manpower was assembled to deal with the attack of Konoha and Sandian. So, Long also nodded slightly, and couldn't help but secretly rejoice. Next, the two left the country of Tien and came to a small country near the sea in the north. According to Shangrin, she doesn't know the exact location of Sanwei, but only knows that it is located in a huge lake somewhere in this country. Don't worry about the dragon. I will definitely find it. Seeing that Long was also displeased, Shangrin hurriedly promised. Then what are you waiting for? Long also sank and scolded. Look for it soon. Yes. Shangrin responded and went to look for it immediately. This country is not big, but because of its proximity to the sea, there are many lakes in the country. But as long as you look everywhere, as long as the three tails are really here, with Shangrin's perception ability, you will definitely be able to find them. Looking at Shangrin who was leaving, Long couldn't help but smile. This woman is really well behaved. Am I being too mean to her? Dragon is really not very good at getting along with women. The heart said that if Shangrin can really help him find Sanwei, then treat her better and count it as a reward. Separation. Immediately afterwards, Long also took a deep breath, no longer thinking about other things, and turned into thousands of clones. 2 Done. Earth flow wall. Then more than 1,000 clones started to practice together. Through the improvement of Sarutobi's secret medicine, although the qualification has improved, it is still very poor. 2 Lubi, as a level ninja, would probably take at least a few years to cultivate in a step-by-step manner. There is no way, the dragon can only use the clone to practice again. Pong, pong, pong. In the evening, Long Yi, who had been practicing for a day, released his clone. Phew, phew. The next moment, all the fatigue accumulated by the clones instantly concentrated on the main body. Even Long Yi, whose heart had been strengthened and his physique improved, couldn't help but slumped on the ground in an instant, sweating profusely, gasping for breath. Dragon 2. At this time, Shangrin just came back. Seeing Long also in this state, she couldn't help but jumped up and rushed over. Are you hurt? No, just a little tired. That's fine. Seeing that Long was not injured, Shangrin breathed a sigh of relief, then rolled up her sleeves, and there were a few tooth marks on her arms, and brought them to Long Yi's mouth. Bite me. Ah Long also followed the teeth marks and bit down hard. Immediately afterwards, I only felt that the tiredness of my body was rapidly dissipating. Even the severely depleted chakra is recovering quickly. Incense has a special constitution that can gather chakra on the surface of the body to form tooth marks. As long as you bite these teeth marks, you can heal wounds, restore stamina, chakra, etc. I have to say, with this ability alone, Shangrin is not lost to any medical ninja, he is simply a treasure. However, Long Yi's consumption was indeed huge, and he almost bit Shangrin all over his body before he finally recovered completely. He breathed a sigh of relief and then asked. Have you found it? No. Shangrin, who was crying in pain, was worried when she heard this, for fear that the dragon would also dislike her for being useless and thus abandon her. Continue looking for it tomorrow. But the dragon also said something, and then turned to sleep. Shangren couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief, and at the same time secretly made up his mind that he must find Sanwei tomorrow. Even sleeping is so charming. And looking at Long Yi, who fell asleep quickly, Shangren was full of nympho again. Filu reminds you, 3 things to read. 060. Three-tailed person Zhu Lixiong. Day, Shangren went to search for the 3 tails, and the dragon also cloned himself to cultivate the earth flow wall. Evening, when Shangren came back, the dragon also bit her to recover. It's just like this, for more than a month, after practicing self-abuse every day, Long Yi's soil wall finally made good progress. I found it. At noon that day, Long was also cultivating, and Shangren, who had just left, suddenly came back and shouted with excitement on her face. Dragon 2, I found the 3 tails. Great. More than a month, Shangren searched almost all the lakes in this small country, and finally found Sanwei. Long also released his clone immediately and gave an order. Take me there quickly. Shangren nodded and then led the way. The distance is not very far, and after about an hour, under the guidance of Shangren, I came to a wilderness somewhere. And just ahead, is a huge lake. The dragon also glanced at it, and it was no different from an ordinary lake. But according to what Shangren said, she clearly felt that there was an extremely huge chakra at the bottom of the lake, which must be Sanwei. Long Yi, you want. Searching for more than a month, Shangren finally remembered that he had no idea why Long Yi was looking for Sanwei. Looking at Long Yi, who was eager to try it this time, he suddenly realized something, and asked with a reluctant smile. You're not going to catch it, are you? Otherwise why would I look for it? How is this possible? Shangren's face changed greatly in an instant, and she looked at Long Yi in disbelief. That was a tailed beast, a terrifying creature that could easily destroy a village. Moreover, Shannon has never seen such a large and disturbing number of chakras. Don't. Long Yi was about to fight this monster, and the frightened Shangren hugged Long Yi's arm and cried out loudly. Please, Long Yi, don't. It's all my fault, I shouldn't have come to Sanwei, you will die. Looking at Shangren, who was so worried about himself, Long couldn't help but startled. Since he came to this world, this is the first time that he has been cared about so much. Don't worry. Long Yi smiled at the corner of his mouth, gently opened Shangren's hand, and patted her head with a hint of doting. It's just a big turtle, I'm Takagi Ryuya. But, because of Long Yi's intimacy, Shangren lost her mind for a moment, and wanted to dissuade her, but seeing Long Yi's confident face, she didn't know how to speak for a while. Stand further away. At this time, Long Yi, who was looking at the lake, suddenly looked stunned and explained. Go 10 kilometers away from the center of the lake. Dragon's intention, but Shangren, who has lost the ability to think, just obeys, right? Immediately afterwards, according to what Long Yi said, Shangren ran 10 kilometers away and stood on a higher mountain wall, staring at Long Yi nervously without blinking. Swish swish swish. I saw the dragon also flew up, kicking a dozen kunai into the sky in an instant. What a strong foot. Seeing the pain blazing towards the clouds, his eyes widened instantly. Kunai is not heavy, it is absolutely impossible for a human being to be able to fly so high. Swish swish. The next moment, the dragon also flashed, and by replacing kunai, he kept leaping into the sky. Dragon is also a stand-in. Seeing Long Yi's move, Shangren was excited again. And when the dragon also reached the highest point, it stopped abruptly, and his hands began to seal quickly. This is. Just when Shangren was puzzled, she saw that the dragon suddenly rushed down and spewed out a fireball. Fireball, fireball. Shangren's face was full of doubts again, but the next moment, when she saw that the flying fireball quickly grew in size and instantly became a kilometer in diameter, it fell from the sky like a meteorite, and Xiangrin's complexion instantly changed drastically. Could it be? While absent-minded, I couldn't help but think of the huge fireball I saw in Yunnan village before. Xiangrin's face changed drastically again. Could it be that it was Long Yi who destroyed Yunnan village with a fireball at that time? Boom! Just as Xiangrin was thinking about it, the fireball had already fallen. It exploded in an instant, overturning the entire lake. Although they were more than 10 kilometers apart, the strong wind caused by the explosion of the fireball stirred up a large amount of lake water, which was like a typhoon and rain. Xiangrin groaned, gritted her teeth and stood firm, so she was not blown away. Ow! And at this moment, an angry roar suddenly came from the center of the lake. Xiangrin's face changed greatly, and she quickly followed the reputation. I saw that there were still lakes, only a giant pit left, and at the bottom of the giant pit, like a tortoise, a monster with a hard shell and spikes, was lying on the bottom. He was greatly disturbed, and was roaring in anger at this time. Whoosh! Whoosh! And at this moment, the dragon, who was falling rapidly from the sky, was about to land when two flashes suddenly appeared directly above the monster's head. Noba whirlwind. The next moment, I saw that the dragon was like a wheel in midair, smashing heavily on the top of the monster's head. Boom! The power of one kick is like a landslide. With a loud noise, the huge monster was directly smashed into the mud at the bottom of the lake. Seeing the motionless monster, Xiangrin was completely dumbfounded. Just one kick, such a terrifying monster, kicked Xiangrin to death and then looked at Long Yi. For a while, I couldn't help but have a question: who exactly is the monster? Of course not dead. After a while, when Xiangrin came over, Long also smiled lightly. The tailed beast is the materialization of chakra and cannot be killed. So. Xiangrin nodded, then frowned again. Then what to do now? Although the tailed beast will not be killed, it is obvious that it has been knocked out after eating the foot of Long Yi just now. The dragon also wants to capture the tailed beast, and it has been successfully captured, but how should such a behemoth be dragged away by Xiangrin? At this time, Long also suddenly looked at her with a very serious expression, and asked solemnly, "Are you willing to do anything for me? This is simply a question of love." Xiangrin is immersed in happiness for a moment, speechless for a while, just nodding hard. Including turning into a monster. Long's expression became more and more serious, and asked another question. Xiangrin couldn't help but startled, then narrowed her eyes with a smile on her face, still nodding heavily. "Then let me become a monster for you. From now on, you are mine." As announced, Long also solemnly said something. "Si wei mao shu yu wu si." Pa. After the seal was completed, the dragon also slapped Sanwei with both hands and shouted loudly, "Seal." Om. The next moment, with a buzzing sound, the huge three-tailed tail turned into pure chakra again, and was sealed into Xiangrin's body.